Well, we're streaming away. We're streaming today. I hope you're doing fine. There's so many streams for us to see. But this one here is mine. Let's stream today. And a very happy unicorn to you as well, pissed off Canadian. Good to see you, bud. Good to see you. This is actually the first time I'm talking today. Really trying to give my voice a rest, and I can still feel like I'm still recovering. I can't believe that I actually hurt myself. No, it doesn't. Cheese's Parkerish. There's just no evidence that that's the case, bud. Stick around. You'll figure it out. I'm streaming of a white Christmas, just like the ones I used to know. So, Toronto spends $3.1 million on policing a day. 1/3 of that figure alone could house and pay the rent of over 80 plus houseless people for over a year. But Toronto would rather criminalize people for being houseless in a park. One day of policing could house everyone there. Yep. I'm not going to go to your propaganda, bud. You're walking around saying capitalism works. I mean, it's kind of embarrassing, honestly. I mean, for goodness sakes, like 67% of Canadians, 55% of Americans think that the next generation is worse off than they are. Like, you're in a small vanishing minority, bud, and it's starting to get kind of flat earthery. It's starting to get kind of like little like Santa Claus is real kind of thinking. I don't need to tolerate it, and I'm not going to go to your weird little links and stuff. Stick around. You'll figure it out. Like, this is something that the European nations are starting to figure out. Finland has figured out. Even like Alaska has sort of figured out that like it is cheaper to just house people. It is cheaper to house people. There's 66,000. No, I love information. I doubt that you have information, bud. Honestly, because you're saying that capitalism works. Like, that's an embarrassing thing to say. No one at any level of anywhere is saying that. Like, people are saying that capitalism needs reform. Like, if you had walked in here and been like, capitalism should be reformed, but I like capitalism, it's like, oh, okay. But you're saying capitalism works? It's embarrassing. All right, bud. We're good. We're just going to go ahead and put you in timeout. So, feel free to stick around and listen and learn something, bud. But I don't need to tolerate your dumb shit. So, like, we have 66,000 empty houses here in Toronto, right? The trouble, and I've said this on my videos, the trouble is that we don't want to confront capital, is that John Tory isn't confronting capital. Because John Tory is a weak leader, right? He's a weakling. He's a coward who just absolutely is going to refuse to confront capital because he's part of the capitalist class, right? When he leaves office, he's going to go join some board of directors, right? Like Stephen Harper did, right? Like Pierre Elliott Trudeau did, like they all do, right? That the transition from leadership of political enterprises into corporate power is very smooth, right? Hey Ruth, how you doing today? And this is something we could do. It would be easy to do, right? But our leadership is too cowardly. And I'm glad to see like the what's happening in Lamport Stadium and across Toronto is starting to make international headlines, which I'm really happy to see, because like even American cities are not dealing with their homeless this way, right? Like Vancouver isn't, Victoria Island isn't, right? Like Victoria's not, Winnipeg's not. Like none of the major cities across Canada or the United States are dealing with homelessness this way. It's just Toronto. Why? Like what is it about Toronto that makes it think that dealing with homelessness this way is acceptable? Like, which isn't to say that throughout the states they're dealing with their homeless crisis in acceptable ways. So, like, for goodness sakes, they're erecting like what I've started to call homeless infrastructure, right? Like hoses set up as showers for people. Like it's this sort of embarrassing, ridiculous nonsense. And meanwhile, the politicians who are in charge of this, like John Tory, is being paid like hundreds of thousands of dollars, like to actively assault people. The park was rented to a movie production. It wasn't even about safety. Oh, really? Is that? Do you have a link on that, bud? Can you share that in the Discord? Because, like, I'd really like to see that. I saw the video where John Tory was faced by a person about all his crap and was speechless. Yeah, of course. He's a total loser, right? Like, his line is so insipid and so see-through, right? That, oh, we're taking people and we're putting them into indoor housing. Well, the indoor housing that they're talking about is the shelter system, right? The shelter system, which is overwhelmed, which is full. Forget about the fact that, like, people are afraid of it, right? Forget about all that. And I mean, even if you think about, like, shelters are not a solution, right? Shelters are not a solution. They are this embarrassing transition, right? That, like, a shelter would be something that you would do if there was, like, a sudden crisis. Like, if half the city burnt down, you'd be like, oh shit, shelters, like temporary kind of stuff. But, like, the idea that we are using a temporary shelter system as our permanent solution to homelessness is completely embarrassing, right? And it's one of these concessions to the capitalist class again, right? Like, oh well, you can't make these homeless people too comfortable, right? Or else they won't go work for these sociopathic capitalists anymore. And it's completely acceptable for the capitalists to do what they want and abandon everybody and have no loyalty and fuck off into space and all this kind of stuff. And then you've got places, again, like Finland, right? They just passed legislation. They said, okay, we're just going to give people houses, right? We're just going to give people houses. And turns out it's cheaper to do. It's more efficient. And the quality of life of the homeless improves dramatically and instantly. And many of them just return to work, right? Because they're able to stabilize themselves. The trouble is that we're ruled by this group of childish sociopaths, right? That, like, my new theory about these far right fascists is that they are just children who never grew up, right? Like, we know that children are basically sociopaths, right? If you're like 2 or 3 or 4, you know, you're only self-interested. You're only self-interested in yourself. So if you never develop past that, right? If you're always clutching onto your parents' strings or anything, you know what, Jesus Parkish? I just don't have patience for your nonsense. Like, it's just stupid. You can go back into timeout. Why do you use Windows and not Linux? Like, it's so stupid. That's just, well, feudal people living in feudalism eat grain made by their feudal lord, right? Like, it's just dumb. You sound stupid, bud. Like, you just sound like a moron. Stick around, learn something. Like, but just stop talking, dude, because you sound like an idiot. Like, really, those kinds of statements. Oh, why are you using Windows? Like, why is the feudal? The feudal serfs are eating the grain. Oh, feudal, but they're complaining about feudalism. I'm an intelligent person. Like, you sound like a moron. Like, geez Louise, dude. Like, I don't have time for this childish bullshit, right? Like, I just don't have time for this childish bullshit anymore. I'm so over it. Like, this place is burning down. Like, there's a fucking crisis going on, and morons like you walking around sounding like fucking idiots. Like, we don't have patience for this shit anymore. Because morons like you go and elect morons like Doug Ford, right? Like, morons like you go and fucking elect morons like fucking John Tory, right? Like, you need to sit down and shut the fuck up, because you sound like a fucking moron, right? And it's likely that you are a fucking moron. Coming in here and saying, like, capitalism works while, like, people are getting beat up in the parks. You fucking idiot. Like, that's really fucking stupid, dude. Like, that's really fucking stupid. Like, really fucking stupid. You need to go take a look in the mirror and really analyze yourself as an individual. Walking around and saying that capitalism fucking works. It's fucking embarrassing, dude, and you should be embarrassed. Right? What are you, like a child? I mean, chances are good the answer is yes. On the other side, here's a touch of good news. I do like to try and weave in some good news. So the FTC votes unanimously to enforce right to repair, right? Kind of odd that they actually have to vote to enforce laws that already exist, right? But here we go. So they've done it, and that's good news. In my view, like, why aren't we passing legislation and regulation to say that things like iPhones, computing, all this kind of stuff, they need to have like a 20-year guarantee, right? Like the idea, like, because what these capitalists do is they design things to become obsolete, and they design things to break on purpose, because that's how they make more money. That if they make something that actually lasts, if they make something that actually has permanency to it, then they can't make extra money, right? This is why capitalism fails. If you're still here, cheese. This is why capitalism fails, because instead of doing things that are reasonable to benefit anybody, the capitalists will exploit the market system and exploit the system in order to benefit themselves and hurt everybody else. So, like, for goodness sakes, like, iPhone technology is literally like, they'll release patches to old iPhones in order to make it so that they no longer work or they don't function as well, right? And this practice is literally like still ongoing. This is why people say don't update your iPhone, right? You don't update your iPhone because they're releasing a patch that will actually make it so that your iPhone no longer functions as well, so that it pushes it towards obsolescence, so that you have to update to get the new one. And of course, like, they're doing, in my view, like sociopathic things. They're like literally, they're selling you the phone, but then they're selling the power charger separately. Like this kind of crazy shit. And but stuff like right to repair, right? Like it's very important that we are able to repair this stuff. Kind of odd that they actually have to vote. The FTC actually has to vote to reaffirm that, hey, laws exist and we should actually have laws. But I mean, that's America for you, baby. And it's America is in a state of free fall collapse. So my voice is still recovering, right? My voice is still recovering. Here's a great propaganda piece, comes out of Yahoo Finance. This is essentially a copy paste of the Washington Post article, but that's behind a paywall. And essentially what it argues is that, billionaire space race could benefit regular people too, because when we send people to space, it creates and develops technologies, right? And those technologies can go in. The trouble is that what Daniel Howley here doesn't acknowledge is that all that stuff is privatized, right? So a billionaire space race, any technology that gets created out of that, which is usually subsidized by the government, incidentally, but is privatized ultimately, all of that. Capitalism beats people up in parks? Yeah, bud. Human despair beats people up in despair. Stop to show confidence in your beliefs. No, dude, you just sound like a moron. I just don't have time to deal with this. Yes, capitalism beats people up in parks, right? People are in those parks because they can't find jobs. People are in those parks because the capitalist system is abandoning them. If you can't put that together, you're stupid. You sound very dumb, right? Yes, And then what do the politicians who are paid by the capitalists in order to get into power, what's their solution? They send police and go beat them up in the parks. This is black and white, dude. Like, if you don't think that that is real, you are fucking stupid, right? You want to show confidence in your beliefs. Okay, right? Maybe read a fucking book. Stop paying attention to CIA propaganda. Is that human disrepair or capitalism? What the fuck are you talking about, dude? Like, we live in a capitalist system. There are other societies that don't have homelessness, right? Why don't they have homelessness? Because they confront their capitalists, right? They confront their capitalist. Oh my god, dude. Fuck you. Get out of here. Get the fuck out of here. Just get the fuck out of here. Hide you. Get the fuck out of here. I just don't have... No. How do I ban you? Get the fuck out of here. Hide user. Go the fuck away. Go the fuck away. Go the fuck away. Stick around. Learn something. Go the fuck away. Like, you sound stupid, dude. You sound like a stupid person. I don't have time to deal with you. Go the fuck away. Stick around. Listen. Use your ears. Learn something. You sound like a fucking moron. So, ugh. I'm so tired of this shit, man. We literally have people getting beat up in parks. We literally have, like, capitalists paying politicians to beat people up in parks. And we got morons like this coming in and defending it. Like, because they're too fucking stupid to put two and two together. And then they play the victim, right? That's my favorite. They play the victim. They're like, hey, whoa. I know I'm supporting the beating up of people in parks. I know that I'm supporting torture across the world. I know that I'm doing that. But I'm the smart one and you're the idiot, right? Go fuck yourself, dude. Get the fuck out of here. I'm so over it. Like, it's become obvious at this point. It's become obvious. And, like, anybody who's going to stand up in front of me, like, literally, I equate this to just kind of standing up and being like, hey, Hitler had some points. Get the fuck out of here. Did anyone see the robot on the street delivering food while a homeless person watches? Yeah, it was just posted on YouTube. Yeah, I did just see that. I gravitated away from it. Okay. Holy cow. I hurt my voice while being at an anti-poverty rally. I literally was screaming into a mic and I just went a little too hard. And it's taken like the whole rest of the week to recover from it, right? That we are abandoning, like, we're abandoning people. Capitalism is abandoning people. It's becoming really, really obvious. And I just wanted to, like, I was just standing in Dundas Square and I was just screaming away and It's just tiring, man. It's just tiring. And I'm seeing that people are getting exhausted with this. I'm seeing that people are getting exhausted with it. And, like, I feel like this Jeff Bezos flight has been, like, a real breaking point for lots of people. That, like, it's so absurd now. It's so childishly absurd that, like, literally a billionaire is flying into space while people are collapsing on the streets because capitalism is abandoning them. And then we sick the police on them. And then morons like Cheese's Parkish comes in and pretends as though, oh, well, that's not happening. Like, it's fucking unbelievable. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right, pissed off Canadian. They want us to get tired and give up. Like, that is definitely part of the strategy. Just, like, exhaust us, collapse us, right? It's a big reason why they can't support things like a basic income. It's a big reason why they can't support these things because of because they need us to be exhausted. They need us to be finished. I just listened to Abby Martin, who, if you guys know me, you know that I'm in love with Abby Martin. I think that she's a real professional, one of the best journalists ever, and she's a total babe. Like, she's a total babe. I'm so in love with Abby Martin. And she was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and she was just laying it out about what was going on in Israel, right? And what's going on in Palestine. That it's this ridiculous situation going on there, and it is an apartheid state. And she was pointing out that the narrative has shifted, like the energy has shifted in regards to the Israel-Palestinian conversation. And I'm glad to hear that coming from somebody like Abby Martin, that she is feeling that the energy has shifted, that people no longer buy into this idea that it's a two-side state, that it's a two-side solution, that it's any of this kind of stuff, right? That it's that we that it really is like a South African apartheid, like that's the situation that we are looking at, and that it is just the fact that the American military supports Israel because it needs a military base in the Middle East. And then she went on to describe and talk about how the number one, if not the number one polluter, certainly one of the largest polluters in the world, one of the number one polluters in the world is the American military. And that if we stopped like all of our manufacturing, if we stopped doing all that kind of stuff, but still kept going on with the military, the imperial military throughout the world, it would just destroy everything, right? Like it would just destroy everything. And so we've got to be ending this militarism. We've got to be pulling back on this. And one hopes that the American military eventually collapses, like what happened after the collapse of the Soviet Union, and that they're forced into a recession, that they're forced to recede, because they're going to take us down with them, right? We are going to get blown up. Like, it is going to kill us. Government is exhausting while world is falling apart. You have idiots think there's nothing wrong. Exactly. Yeah, capitalism's working just fine, guys. Don't worry about it. Oh, you're using Windows, right? Like, fucking morons. Would love to see you do an interview with Abby Martin and Chris Hedges. Yeah, that would be like a real treat for me. I doubt I'll ever get there, but it, honestly, I just, if I was to do an interview with Chris Hedges, like he's done so many interviews with so many good people. If I were to do an interview with Chris Hedges, I'd just try to bro down with that guy, I think. I would just be like trying to get him to tell stories from his childhood and like try to get him to talk about like just like a time he got drunk and did something stupid, you know, like that kind of stuff. I actually would really love to see Chris Hedges get onto Joe Rogan's podcast. That it's always been surprising to me that Joe Rogan has never had Chris Hedges on. Like Joe Rogan has had like Cornel West on, he's had Abby Martin on, he had oh, come on now. Bernie Sanders, I did it. I got there. He had Bernie Sanders on, right? And he's had people like Kyle Kalinske, Jimmy Dore, right? So all of the people who are sort of in that kind of what's considered the leftosphere, right? He's had on, but Chris Hedges has been this like one kind of figure who he's never actually had on. And I've never really understood that. I've never really understood why that's the case. Especially because Chris Hedges is like at the intercross of a lot of people that Joe Rogan speaks with. Like Sam Harris, for example. Like Joe Rogan likes Sam Harris. But, I mean, Chris Hedges has had a debate and then a long back and forth with Sam Harris, where he ends up making him look like a fucking nightmare sociopath, if you ask me. Like, Sam Harris's pro-torture position is complete, which he's never abandoned. Like, he's still pro-torture. And so, I kind of feel like that might have something to do with it, but... And who knows, it could simply be that Chris Hedges is just like, I don't care, like Joe Rogan. Which I think would be a mistake, like Joe Rogan, for goodness sakes. Hey, Onward, how you doing, bud? Haven't seen you here in a bit. I feel like my videos, I'm going to keep doing, or I'm going to try to keep doing more often the kind of traditional journalism videos that I've been doing. Like I did the Canada Abandons the Homeless video, and that's the most viewed video on the channel now. And now I did this one about Lamport Stadium, and it's like more traditional newscasting. And I feel like that more traditional newscasting has, it seems to connect into people a little bit better than the walk and talks. I think the walk and talks do well in their own right, but I feel like are largely misinterpreted. I think lots of people think that, oh, this is just some guy's, dumb vlog. Whereas the news, oh, thank you, Onward. That's very nice of you to say. Whereas yeah, it seems like that's the case. So I think I'm going to start gravitating more in that direction. Do less of the walk and talks. Do more, like actually write a script. Actually do a thing. Shorter video, about 5 minutes. Seems like people are gravitating more in that direction, and I also think it lets me fool more people into believing that I'm a professional. And so that's really nice. That's really nice. Yeah, I know. After like a bit of a plateau, right? Like I had like a real plateau for a long time, and then like suddenly it was just like boom. So I think the proof's in the pudding, right? The proof's in the pudding. You gotta chase that rainbow, right? Striking to end suicide shifts. Frito-Lay's workers ask people to drop the Doritos. Yeah, capitalism's really working, you guys. Strike to end suicide shifts. People literally like committing suicide on the job. Employees say sweltering 90-degree temperatures on the picket line are preferable to the 100-degree plus heat that awaits them inside the manufacturing warehouse on any given summer day. They're demanding an end to overtime and 84-hour weeks that they argue leaves little room for meaningful quality of life. Like, 84-hour weeks? Are you kidding me? Making potato chips? Like, making fucking potato chips? Like, we are a nation of children. Like, this is really it. Like, we want our potato chips, and if somebody has to die in 100-degree temperature working 84 hours a week, then so be it. Capitalism works, you guys. Well, that's nice to hear, pissed off Canadian. That's nice. I like that. I like that a lot. That's a really good feedback. Actually made less traumatic watching it. And I just feel like stating things as they are, right? Just stating things as they are. It's because that's what it is. Like, I mean, we are obviously, like, Toronto is obviously tilting towards fascism. So it's very difficult to ignore, right? That, like, the police are being sicked upon the vulnerable while there are empty houses. Like, it's just brutal. Female soldiers are getting new body armor designed just for them. Heartwarming. Yeah, exactly. That's just some like heartwarming shit right there. I do feel a little bit bad about how I treated this guy, Jesus Parkerish. I just don't have patience for it today, honestly. I just don't have patience for it today. I just don't have the patience to actually convince somebody that reality is real today. You know? Like, I just don't... Onward, this happened before you got in here, but like this guy showed up and was doing all the typical nonsense shit, right? All the typical bullshit that you expect. Like, oh, you're using a Windows computer. How curious, right? Like all that kind of dumb bullshit. But at the same time, DM, I have this kind of sense that like I do want to try to convince these people, right? But the reality is that like they take over the channel, they take over the stream. I spend all my time saying the same shit you guys have heard over and over and over again, and then they don't come back. Like, even after I fucking educate them, and even after they're gone, right, they don't come back. They just take over and they spread their shit around, and it's the same dumb shit. It's just this fucking Ben Shapiro 7-year-old nonsense, right? Like, and it's exactly it. It's just foolishness at this point. Like, it's just foolishness. Like, you really do have to have your head buried in the sand at this stage in the game. And like, I'm over it. I'm just fucking over it. Especially right now. Like, there are fucking, like, police officers beating the shit out of homeless people. Like, today. Like, that shit's happening right now. And our leadership is just kind of thumb up the bum, Like, yeah, this is normal. What a normal way to run a normal society. That's not fascism. Yeah, I was going to tell him to sign up to your Patreon at the highest level since he loves capitalism so much. Then he'd look at your links. Oh, that. I should have said that. That's exactly what I should have said. Right? I should have been like, oh, you're a capitalist, right? So you pay me money and I'll actually pay attention to you. I vote for not abandoning the walk and talk videos. They keep the weather relevant. I like that word. No, I doubt I'll ever abandon the walk and talks. I doubt I'll ever abandon them completely. But I think I want to weave things in a little bit more, you know? Do like one kind of more standard, like journalist kind of thing, and then one walk and talk. Oh yeah, Ward's posts on the UBI stuff is always great. I feel like this is like a nice personal conversation we're having here today, guys. I feel like that's what I need more than anything right now. Just like a nice, like, how y'all doing? How are things? How are your dogs? You know? Because, like, fucking shit is insane, man. Shit is so stupid. Like, striking against suicide shifts? People are fucking having suicide shifts? And for what? And for what? I should do a video about this. That's what I should do. I should do a video about this. Right? I should find some footage of people working in factories and all this kind of stuff. And literally be like, and so that we can have fucking chips. Like, really, like, if we have to torture people, so that we can get bags of fucking chips, maybe we shouldn't have chips, right? Hey, Eric, how you doing today, bud? It's been a while. What do we got? Milo is still over at Fiona's. I'm gonna go pick him up. He'll be back next week, and I'll get him on the cast again. I'm sure. He's a real sweetheart. I've been missing him these last couple of days. I'm looking forward to getting him back. My ex and I, like, we broke up. It's been over a year now. We broke up. We were together for 10 years. And we broke up, and then we still had this little dog, Milo, and we've just come to an arrangement so that I have him for a couple of weeks, and then she has him for a couple of weeks, and he seems to be doing well with that. So that way, like, it's a bit overwhelming to try to take care of a dog all by yourself, and so Cats are easier if you're a single person because cats are a little bit more autonomous. They're less clingy. They don't need so much stimulation, I think. Gives Milo a virtual high five. How sweet. What a sweetheart. I should gather up some of the pictures that Fiona takes of him while she's over there. Show them to you guys. A year's worth of rain falling in 3 days in China. A once in 1,000-year event. 4 million acres in Siberia burned. Worst flooding in Germany in 1,000 years. But I need my tater chips. Yeah, right? Like this is what I keep talking about. Like, we are this nation of children. Just like pouting and crying. And there's a link that I have here. Where is it? Oh, I've got one thing that I really wanted to talk about because it's a little off. Anyway, the leadership of so Ben & Jerry's pulls out of what they call the occupied Palestinian territories, Israel, right? So they're no longer going to be selling Ben & Jerry's in Israel, which, if you go buy ice cream, you can feel good about Ben & Jerry's. Those guys are at least trying. They're at least trying to do right. You know, they're at least making the attempt. And the leadership of Israel says that Ben & Jerry's pulling out their ice cream from Israel is a new form of terrorism. That's what they called it, a new form of terrorism. As if it's not like the most capitalist thing ever for a capitalist to make a decision not to sell their product to people for whatever reason they would like. Like that's like the beating heart of the capitalist ethos, right? Capitalists are allowed to sell wherever they would like. That's their freedom. And Israel, of course, calls this a new form of terrorism. And it's just like, what are you, a fucking child? Like, literally, like, destroying Palestinians, dropping bombs on them, creating an apartheid state is the same as I can't get my ice cream. Like, these people are children. They're just children who never grew up. And like, when I see like the pro apartheid people who are like committing this mass genocide against the Palestinian people, when I see them doing that shit, it's like they're 2-year-olds. Like they're not much older than 2. That they genuinely think that this is a solution. It's just brutal. I'm full of dogs, and I've been pondering how social media pandemic brings out the inner writer in so many that haven't had the time to exercise that muscle. I think that's absolutely true. I know that over this pandemic, I've been writing a lot more music, a lot more songs I've been producing, because, you know, you have a moment to kind of sit down and drink a cup of tea and not worry that, like, you've got a place to go, right? Like, and not worry so much. And right now, I'm just happy that I'm keeping my apartment clean, and I spent a little bit of time. My bedroom is a total disaster, and I'll never show that to you guys. But my bedroom is just like in complete and total disarray, and so I'm like steadily fixing it up, and that's. But I think about people who are like caught in the capitalist kind of grind, right? Who are caught in this capitalist grind that just fucks their life, right? Just completely fucks their life over. Massive outage disrupts internet service in Canada and around the world. I didn't notice it. No, I saw that article and I was like, oh, okay. I didn't notice it. Didn't happen here. So maybe maybe the CIA is testing, right? They're testing. Where can we knock the internet out, right? Where can we knock it out? Wall-to-wall coverage of space billionaires. Not a word about strikes. Just pathetic. More than 1,000 coal miners have been on strike for more than 100 days in Alabama, and according to a new study, the 3 major cable news networks, CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC, have not had a single mention of this strike against Warrior Met. Like, capitalism works though, guys. Capitalism works. Onward. I had to take a break from politics for a while. Really, it was an involuntary dissociation. Like when you try to eat something that made you throw up once. Not to be graphic. I know exactly what you're talking about though, dude. I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, I have in my life needed, like when Donald Trump got elected, I had to disassociate from politics. I like literally like just took a break and stopped paying so much attention because it was such an obvious right turn towards fascism, and it was so depressing. But at the same time, Donald Trump's election, like looking back on it, I've actually come to realize that Donald Trump's election was a real boon for people like me, because I actually, like the way that I've been talking, it's funny, I was cleaning up my room today and I came across a notebook. Literally, this notebook is like 10 years old, and I've just been carting it around with me, and I opened it up, and all of the stuff that was in that notebook is all the stuff that I've been saying on this channel, right? I've always thought this way. I think even when I was an evangelical Christian, I was talking this way about the nature of the state and all of that kind of stuff. But I have vivid memories of talking this way with the people around me, and those people would like kind of roll their eyes and just be like, "Oh, John, you're being so dramatic, and everything's fine, and like it's not good. We're not going towards fascism. Oh my God, like, oh, you just say everything you don't like is fascism and all this kind of embarrassing stuff." And then Donald Trump got elected. And those same people who were kind of rolling their eyes and like being like, "Okay, John, whatever you say," are now coming to me and they're being like, "So, John, what do you think about Donald Trump? What do you think about all this? Where do you see things going?" Right? And so Donald Trump, in a big way, was this moment where everybody kind of went, oh, fuck. Like, oh, fuck. Those guys that we've been ignoring, maybe we should start paying attention to. And now I do think that Jeff Bezos going into space, like Jeff Bezos going into space while all of this crisis is going on, it's just a bridge too far for people. I think most people are finally starting to put two and two together and be like, because it's just too irrational. It's too much, right? That like literally police are clearing out encampments with force while there are homeless encampments all across America. Quality of life is in decline. Nothing is working. And there's a rocket fired into space. Jeff Bezos is on it. Like, it just doesn't fucking work. Right? It just doesn't fucking work. Yeah, Trump's election did break the neoliberal consensus steady state, even though he governed like any other Republican. Yeah. It was really like perception breaking though. Like he was just a boorish asshole, right? And on top of that, like he did really shake people's confidence like on the world stage, right? The European nations especially, I think, walked away from Donald Trump's administration being like, "Oh, America can vomit that. It can vomit that shit out. Oh, okay. Like that shit can come out of America. Oh, okay." And, you know, they look over to China and they're like, hey, there's a stable nation. Looks pretty stable. They're building stuff. They're not electing fucking nut jobs. They're not electing fucking crazy assholes who are invading other nations, right? Yeah, neoliberals will just say they need to learn to code. Yeah. I'm glad that kind of went away. That came up and went away pretty quickly. It's like idiots like this cheese guy came in and be like, oh, learn to code. And everybody was just like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, 50-year-old truck drivers are not going to suddenly learn to code, right? It's not going to fucking happen. Trump hit a nerve with a lot of people. That's why he was, I think he was more a protest vote than anything else. That, like, ultimately Donald Trump was just like a big fuck you to the whole establishment. That it really does have that kind of teenage feel about it, which is why I say America is like kind of a 13-year-old, right? That America generally is about 13, 14 years old because it's in this real self-destructive moment where they just want to destroy themselves, you know? Sad truth, Trump was less hawkish than Joe Biden. That's true. That is actually true. Trump might be from New York, but he's a Florida man at heart. Always with the Florida man onward. I gotta seek out some good Florida man news for you, bud, because you really love the Florida man stuff. I do too, though. Florida man is just like always great headlines come out of Florida man. And it is true. Trump was less hawkish than Joe Biden. That he generally like when North and South Korea released a statement saying that they don't want interference as they work out their differences between each other. Trump acquiesced to that. He said, okay, great. You guys go do that. Trump didn't really drop bombs on anybody. Like, Trump didn't invade anybody. He didn't start new wars, right? He did use sanctions, right? Trump preferred sanctions and assassinations. That's what he really agreed. Oh, yeah, I don't disagree with that statement either, Eric. Like, yes, libertarianism for sure. This idea that like, oh, the true way to organize a society is to let chaos reign. Like that's fundamentally what libertarian belief is, right? Like, oh, let's just let chaos reign, and that will somehow equate better society building. Sure, it's never been done successfully. Sure, it's highly experimental. Sure, there are functioning models. Like, this is what I always say to libertarians who are talking about healthcare, right, for example. It's like, okay, bud, like, you're in the middle of a crisis. Like, you're in the middle of a crisis, and you're peddling this experimental belief system, this experimental ideology that has never been implemented and never been tried, right? Meanwhile, the entire rest of the planet has functioning models that work, right? So if you're in the middle of a crisis, do you think that the best idea is to try something highly experimental that's never been tried? Or do you think that the better idea is to use existing models that definitely work? Right? And you can believe that your model is better from an ideological or theoretical standpoint, but we have actual evidence, right? But since when have Americans cared about evidence, right? Since when have they cared about any of that? I saw Trump is a sign people with nothing left to lose. Yeah, but most people just don't want to pay attention to politics that much. And that's what Biden offers. Well, Biden gives the illusion of stability, really. Like, he gives kind of the illusion of stability. Oh, yeah. I think Trump definitely has a good shot at winning again. I think that that's probably the more likely outcome, right? He's still very popular in the Republican Party. Who else could possibly run and beat him, right? Because people are exhausted with this neoliberal politics as usual, right? And it's terrifying because Trump is a climate change denier, right? That's the scariest part about Donald Trump, in my view, right? Like, that really, when it came to international war politics, he was just not, he's kind of in line, right? Not really. Like, you can say to what degree he was more or less hawkish than Biden and all that kind of stuff, but I think he cooperated largely with the military-industrial complex. But it was his climate change denial that I think makes him a far more terrifying candidate, and why we need to definitely be against, well, Republicans generally, but like, yeah, nobody cares until it affects them or their families. Yeah, if we make it there. Yeah. Actually, libertarian like Milton Friedman and Rockert and Hayek all praise the Chile regime, and they all follow their policies. Yeah, the whole neoliberal era is all funded on their doctrine. Exactly. Rand Paul getting a lot of good press calling out Fauci. Well, Fauci straight out said that Rand Paul didn't know what he was talking about. Like, it's so funny. Like, it's so odd that Rand Paul is walking away from those conversations being kind of the victor, even though he's like an illiterate boob, right? Like, this is kind of like, this is why I keep saying in a lot of my videos that, like, the electorate is essentially like do-lu-coo-coo-coo-coo-coo, right? It's those guys. Because that is the electorate, right? That the electorate is just like these rubes who don't really understand theory, don't really understand the system that they live in. They've been indoctrinated into believing that capitalists are entrepreneurs with all of this, so intelligent, all this, and you just need to ignore their history and ignore evidence and ignore facts for that to be maintained. And Rand Paul walking away from those conversations with Fauci and people being like, yeah, Rand Paul got him. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? What the fuck are you talking about? Oh yeah, our neoliberal is very disturbing. It's a very disturbing place. Like, and really, like, this is why I keep saying, guys, like, the true problem that we're facing is that fascism is popular, right? That if someone like Ben Shapiro, like, if fascism wasn't popular, someone like Ben Shapiro wouldn't get anywhere, right? He would say his dumb, childish nonsense, and people would be like, you sound like a fucking idiot. Because he does. But, like, the reality is that fascism is popular. And so people like Rand Paul can say dumb shit in front of actual experts and get called and get told by those experts that they don't know what they're talking about, right? And then he can walk away from that conversation and people will go like, ha, Rand got him, right? Like, that's troubling. That's troubling. And it speaks to kind of the degeneration of the society itself and the people itself, right? And it lets, like, idiots like this cheese guy who come in and pretend like he's smart when he's actually extraordinarily stupid, right? Like, saying like, oh, you're using a Windows computer, therefore capitalism is good. Like, ignoring the fact completely that, like, oh, Windows was actually created by subsidies, right? Government subsidies created Windows. Government subsidies created computers. Bill Gates just bribed some officials and got it privatized and then took it for himself, right? Like, And then Bill Gates and the capitalists didn't build any of this. Labor did that. Like that capitalists are just wedging themselves in between labor and the consumer. And yeah, our neoliberalism is like very weird and very disturbing. There's like a little part of me that wants to actually go there right now and just be like, let's go take a fucking look at how weird this place is. 'Cause like, it's weird. It's weird. No, I don't want to join it. Oh, is this kind of the fake no, this is our neoliberal. The Liberal Party, when a sitting MP... Oh, you know what? This is a great transition into what I actually wanted to talk about. Because this is like completely in line with what... yeah, so the Liberal Party drops a candidate because she has done some like what they're calling boudoir photos, right? And of course, the Beaverton has come up with the perfect line. Liberal candidate dropped for boudoir photos as party only allows nudity on Zoom. And if you don't understand what that's in reference to, it's there was an MP that got caught on camera nude twice in a very short period of time. But this speaks to kind of like the sexual repression that exists in the society, right? That like, oh, so there's a candidate who is popular and who you think is actually going to gain ground and who you actually think is going to like get to a point where she can win an election and win a seat for you. But she has some like racy photos that she put on OnlyFans, right? And like my position is like, so what? Like, I don't understand. There is actually a Italian politician porn star. In Italy, there is actually a porn star that got elected into their parliament, right? Iona Staller, widely known as her stage name Cicciolona, right, is a Hungarian-Italian former porn star, politician, and singer, right? She was born in Budapest, right? And like, meanwhile, here in Canada, we're like, some racy photos. Racy photos. Oh, goodness me, racy photos. And I'm just sitting here being like, what's the problem? Like, what's the fucking problem? I don't get it. Like, I don't get it. And her statement, like, I explained that I love to show off the artwork on my skin and I have no problem taking boudoir photos alone with my friends. I've used multiple platforms to express myself online, including Instagram, Tumblr, and OnlyFans. Why should I be ashamed of my body and what I decide to do with it, right? And so the Liberals turning around and poo-pooing her after they had already... Yeah, I was led to believe that everything was fine. And then they like turned around and poo-pooed her, right? It's like... yeah, Justin Trudeau would be kicked out of running if those blackface pictures surfaced before he was elected. Yeah. And honestly, if you ask me, I think that they knew. I think that they knew about those blackface photos, right? I think they knew. I bet you some of those people watched him do it. I bet some of those people watched him do it, right? Like, Justin Trudeau has been involved in the Liberal Party for a long time. He was the son of the former Prime Minister. Like, have you heard what has occurred with Brandy Love and the Conservative Party? Brandy Love, Conservative. MAGA's biggest porn star, Brandy Love, got kicked out of a political conference just for being a porn star. This is what I'm talking about. This is some like little kid shit. This is some little kid shit. Like, this is little kid shit. Right? Like, this is little kid shit. Like, and if you're gonna turn around and like not vote for somebody because they are a sex worker or involved in sex work, right? And if the party is going to get rid of her, and if this is going to happen, it just tells me that you're like a little kid, right? Agnieszka, I don't know if I've ever seen you here. Welcome aboard. Glad to have you. And that's why these photos didn't matter to JT as daddy. Exactly, right? And really, and apparently it doesn't seem to matter to the electorate that much, right? Like, what the here's the joke that I've been using on that, right? That the blackface photos came out, and the electorate went, ooh, that's racist. And so then it turned to the right, and it went, oh no, that's racist, right? And then it turned and took a look at the left and said, what's with the turban? Like, and then it turned around and put Justin Trudeau exactly where he wanted to be, in a minority. And that's what happened. And like, this to me really just does indicate like what, who gives a shit at all? Like, this is my thing. Like, who gives a shit at all? Like I can respect and understand that you might care, right? But care to the point where you're willing to exclude them from the conversation. Like, to the point where you're willing to be like, no, you can't participate. Like, that's just some little kid garbage, right? Like, girls have cooties. Oh, like, Someone said something about, I could not understand Ben Shapiro at all. He sounds like he's on speed 24/7. Have you ever met like a 5-year-old or a 7-year-old that's just figured out how to articulate themselves, right? Or like a 10-year-old? I've worked with children basically my whole life. I've been working with kids in one form or another, right? I used to work in a toy store. I used to work in a camp system working with kids. And every so often you get one kid and you could tell, like, here's a kid that's just figured out how to put like thoughts together, right? And it's just like literally thoughts go from here to here, and they're just like, and it's constant. It's just constant. And I feel like Ben Shapiro hit that phase of his development where things just kind of go like this, and he never developed past that. And he's just like, and like, he looks like a little kid, for Christ's sakes, with this stupid like part hair, like really like tightly done, and the way he looks in the camera where he's got like the frown, and then he's talking like this all the time. And he's going, oh, I don't know. Like, he just sounds like a little fucking kid, right? And he says stupid shit like a little kid does. So, and this kind of thing, I'm just like, we as a society just cannot get a hold of our own sexuality. Like, we cannot get a hold of the idea that everybody likes sex. Sex is fun. We like it. It is good. It is necessary for our survival and for reproduction and for reproductive reasons. People like to show their bodies off. People, there are exhibitionists. There are people who enjoy watching the exhibitionists. That it's like a perfect marriage, right? Don't you think? And yet, if such a person stands up and goes, hey, I have ideas about how to improve society. No. We can't have any of that here. We can't have any of that here. Because we are not a very adult society. Like, we're very childish in the way that we deal with this issue. And it's very difficult for us. And I also think, like, conservatives are the worst because they can't handle, like, they can't really handle emotions in the first place. And a woman who is confident with her sexuality and is confident with being seen nude and is confident with herself in that way diminishes the power of the male, that men feel weaker when they see a woman like this, and so they need to just be rid of her, right? And it's just really pathetic, if you ask me. Which, I mean, our nation is kind of a pathetic nation in many ways. If porn star politicians can solve many of a society's ills, she's got my vote. Yeah. These photos didn't matter for JT, his daddy. They didn't matter to us, apparently. she's pretty crazy, to be fair. I don't know anything about her policies. So, and if that's the case, then that should be the story, right? Like, that should be the story. And, like, anti-vaxxer conspiracy, that's disappointing to hear. But, like, yeah, make that the story then. I don't care. Like, I sincerely do not care if this person has done OnlyFans or any of that kind of stuff. Do you have any idea how many, like, celebrities and how many actual politicians and all this kind of stuff have like, done some kind of nudity or have done some kind of thing? Like, it's like, oh no, genitals. Oh no, boobs. Like, we're just so fucking childish with this shit. Like, who cares? Virginia Governor Ralph Northam had a bad blackface scandal, but he's a good neolib, so the ID poll wasn't weaponized against him, yeah. She was one of the VIP. If only 25% of the world's population could just simply grow up, a lot of our problems can be solved. And DM, it's possible that that's actually what's happening, right? That, like, I am an elder millennial, right? Like, I'm literally on the cusp. 83 is when I was born. And that's, like, the cutoff for being a millennial. And here I am standing up as a millennial being like, hey, we need to grow up. But I'm like the oldest of the millennials looking at like this situation and just being like, hey, we need to grow up. And so my hope is that more millennials and ostensibly Gen Z will also get into this kind of position. Like, I take a look at somebody like Greta Thunberg, right? Like, Greta is, she was a grown-up. Like, that's a grown-up. She knows what's up. And she talks like a grown-up. Like, she sounds like it. And she kind of got into a position where she had to grow up real fast. And so she did. And one of the big things about becoming a grown-up is realizing, like, oh, okay, like, we've got to do this ourselves. Like, we've actually got to do this ourselves. Like, if you want something done, you got to do it yourself. And, like, we're listening to the boomer generation, and, like, the boomer generation is literally saying, like, climate change, that's a problem for, our grandchildren to solve, right? Like, that's what they're saying. Stephen Harper literally said that, climate change, that's a problem for our grandchildren to solve, right? So I'm not going to put any effort into that. I'm not going to care about that at all. That's a problem for them to solve. And not, well, here we are, right? Here we are, right? And we're getting to the point where we're, like, growing up, and we're starting to be grown-ups. And of course, the neoliberal corporatists haven't done us any favors. They've really seeded the ground in a lot of bad ways, right? Like, the connection, like the connection of alt-right thinkers with video games was actually brilliant. It was really, really brilliant to do that, to create an algorithm that said, oh, you like video games. That must mean you like Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson and all these guys, right? And because ostensibly, like, this flows into what I'm talking about not being able to grow up and not being a society that is grown up. Like, ostensibly guys like Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro, like, their statements on feminism is essentially girls have cooties, right? Like, their statements in regards to systemic racism or any of this kind of stuff is essentially nuh-uh, right? Like, they're very dumb and very illiterate. Like, Jordan Peterson once said that someone was talking about systemic racism, and they were talking about money, and then his response was like, well, money, that's not systemic racism, that's just wealth, right? And it's like this disconnect of, like, you literally don't understand that, like, wealth is a system, like, it's a part of the system, right? He literally doesn't understand the subject down to his own intrinsic personal level. And he's, like, so stupid and so stupid and arrogant that he's willing to say this extremely stupid stuff in front of everybody. But because the strategy of these children is to just talk a lot, that you actually have to parse it and, like, really, like, parse it out and find out what the fuck they're talking about. And when you finally distill, like, this tome of speaking down to, like, the literal sentence that they're actually saying, you realize that it's extremely stupid. Like, oh, if houses go underwater, people will just sell their houses. To who? Like, that's just a fucking dumbass shit, right? That's just some dumb shit. The reasoning for kicking her out because it would set bad example to conservative Christians. Yeah, you know who watches porn more than anybody? Conservative Christians, right? We actually have that evidence. Like, Republicans view more porn than anybody, right? Porn is more a part of Republican culture than anything. So this idea that it's setting a bad example for conservative Christians, like, no, the reality is that they're just ashamed, right? That they're ashamed of what's going on, and they don't have a mechanism to deal with that shame, and because shame is being ashamed of your sexuality is taught from the outset in Christianity, right? That was actually how God figured out that Adam and Eve had eaten from the tree, right? Adam and Eve broke the rule and ate from the tree of life, right? And then felt ashamed of their nudity, and so covered up. And then God showed up and was like, why are you covered up? Why are you ashamed of your nudity? And they said, and they copped up. They went, well, we ate from the tree, right? And so this idea that we're supposed to be ashamed of our bodies and that we're supposed to be ashamed of our sexuality is built in to the text. And all we've done is we've created a situation where that excitement that we feel, the sexual energy that we feel about being nude and about being involved in this kind of stuff, we're taught that that is to be interpreted as shame, and that connecting those two things together is intrinsic to being a conservative Christian. And then now we have these like computers, and you can find porn at the drop of a hat, and every fucking conservative Christian is doing it. Like, they're all fucking doing it. But they're taught that, oh, well, it's dingy and dirty and you're supposed to be shamed. Like, you're supposed to be ashamed of it. And, like, don't get me wrong. Like, there are aspects of pornography that I look at and I go, like, this is concerning. We should talk about that, right? We should talk about that. Like, and a lot of it, in my view, has to do with capitalism, right? A lot of it has to do with just like, well, it's sex for sale, that people aren't necessarily, and lots of people get involved in pornography because it's their only way to make money. Like, people are not getting onto OnlyFans and doing that kind of stuff strictly because of the joy of the artistry or any of that. Like, there's a capitalist aspect to it, that they have to sell themselves. But I genuinely believe that if you got rid of that aspect, lots of people would still do it, right? Lots of people would still do it. What do you think about his sister? Sorry, mate, whose sister? That's why I love Europe. It's so free. Yeah, there's a much more free attitude. What happened to Caitlyn Jenner? Is she still in the running for California governor? I hope not. What a dumb Caitlyn Jenner governor. Like, yeah, looks like. Yeah, looks like she's saying some real dumb stuff. Like, let's take the homeless and create a tent encampment out in a big field somewhere, right? Like, this kind of shit. Just sort of embarrassing. Family values. Somebody did some kind of nasty in order to breed. Yeah. Well, and family values, like when you actually dig into what family values is, they really are just talking about patriarchy. Right, that's what family values means. It means that the man has all the power, women are subservient, right? Anti-feminism, all that kind of stuff. That's what family values means when a Republican is talking about it. I expect Greta Thunberg to be a UN leader in due time. I would like that to be faster. I could do for that to be a little quicker. Our life milestones aren't going to be the same for previous generations, yeah. At my age, my dad owned 2 homes. Yeah, mine too, actually. My dad owned 2 homes too. Well, and you got to remember, right? Like my parents, like I come, Google Maps, we're gonna go to Google Maps. So I come from Portage la Prairie, Manitoba, right? But the truth is that I lived out here, right? So I lived outside of Portage la Prairie, Manitoba. You'd have to drive in, right? But really, my family's story starts over here, Treeherne, Rathwell, right? We're talking small communities, guys. Like this small place. My dad, my mom comes from Treeherne. My dad comes from Holland, right? And these two communities actually shared, like a school. They shared a fire station. They shared all of these sorts of amenities between one another, and that's how my parents meet. And my dad is a farmer, along with his father, a farmer, and my grandfather inherited his land from his father, because the family moved here from Ontario, because the deal is that if you moved here, you got free land, right? 360 acres. You'd get free land. This is like a little known fact that I'm shocked people don't know more about. That during the colonial period, if you were a white British man, you could move to the prairies and they would give you 360 acres of free land, right? If you can't make wealth on that, like literally just like 360 acres of free land, here you go, right? Of course you're going to be able to make your wealth on that. Of course you're going to be able to do that. Like that's a real no-brainer. And this is the position that people like Jordan Peterson's family did that. He went out to Alberta. They're Alberta ranchers, right? And so my grandfather's parcel of land, he wasn't doing very well, weather, right? It's a risky sort of thing. And then somebody comes by and just like drops a tractor, literally just abandons a tractor on his property, right? It's just like, this thing's broken down, I can't do anything. And so my grandpa starts tearing it apart, selling parts. They become junkers. They start to fix up engines. And just as that's occurring, right? Well, what's starting to happen? The interstate highway is starting to occur, right? So, like, my dad and grandpa go, oh, you know what? We could move over here to Portage la Prairie, put a business right on the interstate, right? Repair tractors, be connected to the interstate system. And if you can't make a business doing that, right? And then these are the types of guys that then turn around and say to us, well, I made a go of it, why can't you? And it's like, because I didn't have any free land. I got no free land dropped on my lap. And I don't have any tractors just getting dropped in my front yard, right? And incidentally, there's no gigantic interstate project going on, if you haven't noticed. There's no project going on that kind of scale. And so the old conservative way of thinking, like, simply doesn't function, because there's no big scale projects being invested in for people to attach to. There's no big government handouts for them to benefit from, right? And the most delusional aspect of it is that these major beneficiaries of major government handouts and major government projects, the interstate highway system is a major government project. The free land that they were given for moving out here is a major government handout, right? The same people who are the beneficiaries of this system are the same people who are standing around saying dumb shit like stand up straight and I did it all myself. It's just delusional, arrogant, childish shit. Like, you have to be a child to think this way, right? To not recognize that, like, oh yeah, this land was given to my family for free. Like, for free. Like 360 acres for moving to Manitoba. That's really what it is. I don't know why I got on this. Oh yeah, so our life milestones aren't going to be the same for previous generations because our government isn't funding large-scale projects, right? Is there a project going on that is on the same scale as the interstate highway system, right? And like, you take a look at the interstate highway system throughout America, right? Like, yeah, of course there was huge, people could make a living and people could do all kinds of stuff. Look at the crazy, like, look at what the new system, like the new economy that was created by government spending, right? Like, of course you can make a go of it. And that doesn't exist. None of that is happening. There's no new interstate kind of stuff. And all of the businesses that have been erected because of the interstate system, well, they've been taken over by large corporate interests now. So you can't like start a new business. That's not going to happen. And it's just the great irony of it is that like the same people who are walking around saying, "Oh, you can do it. I did it. You can stand up." Like, well, okay, I didn't get 360 acres of free land, right? And I didn't get the government building a gigantic interstate system. So what the fuck are you talking about, right? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Expect a lot more of these tent city crackdowns to be growing exponentially Canada-wide once EI and CRB runs out in October. Well, I don't think they're going to be able to sustain it politically, is the thing. Like, I do think that they're very unpopular. I think that, like, and I think that they're very radicalizing. I think when people see these sorts of things, they are radicalized by it. Like, it's you really do have to be deluded and detached and kind of sociopathic to take a look at that and think that that's a good thing. And so, like, conservative, right? Like, and if you, and like, it's, and because there are working models elsewhere, like Finland has proved it. They just gave people homes, right? And because those models exist, like, it can be resolved. David Shapiro, I don't think I know anything about it, Eric. Sorry. I owned one, but it was a steal for less than 50K. You'd never get that now. Yeah, exactly. Starting to wonder if the strategy of just get your vaccine and go back to normal, we have no plan B, is about to blow up in their faces. In the middle of summer, no less. Well, I think that they're very concerned about Christmas. Christmas is what I think the capitalist class is most worried about, right? If capitalism misses Christmas, like if everybody boycotted Christmas, it would be the end of corporate capitalism. It would be over. The system would stop. It couldn't function any longer because the whole system is built on the idea that you are going to spend all your money on crap you don't need for other people, right? And all of this, like the whole year is geared towards this ramp up at Christmas. And Black Friday, right? What they call Black Friday. The reason it's called Black Friday is because that's the moment when most businesses get into the black, right? That they run at a deficit. Most businesses run at a loss until Black Friday. And that's why there's such a big push to like do sales and have like a big thing and all of that around that period of time. Because, and then Christmas itself, that's the gravy, that's the profits, that's where they're making their money is Christmas. And so if everybody just boycotted Christmas, if everybody just looked at everybody around them and said, I'm not buying any gifts, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to buy gifts, I don't want you to buy me any gifts, I love you, I still want to spend that time together, we should still share and like all that kind of stuff, but let's not exchange gifts, it would be the end of corporate capitalism. It couldn't survive. It wouldn't survive. And in my view, that happens eventually, right? Because eventually there just comes a point where people won't be able to afford those gifts, where they literally will not be able to afford it. And so that'll be the end of it'll just stop working. And we've already been to the precipice of this several times. Like there's a reason why these capitalists have been pushing the Christmas season closer towards Halloween, right? Didn't used to be this way. The Christmas season used to start like at the earliest December 1st. But now it starts literally November 1st. Like that's a whole month, right? And there's a reason for that. It's because they're desperate. It's because they're desperate to get your money and to convince you that Christmas is this overwhelming force that you can't ignore, right? And they shift the entire society. The entire society becomes gaudy candy canes and gaudy shitty lights and just like this brutal tinsel town nightmare shit, right? Where you're constantly bombarded with Christmas. The music changes, the decor changes, everything changes in an effort to convince you that this Christmas thing should be taken seriously. everyone's taking it seriously. Obviously they are. Everyone's involved. Obviously they are, right? Obviously. But really, like, we should just stop. We should just stop. And if you just stopped, and if you just said, okay, no, nobody give me gifts, I'm not going to give anybody else gifts, you guys don't give each other gifts, and if we all just agreed that would be the case, and of course the Republicans and the conservative types would be like, this is a war on Christmas, and I think our response to that should be like, yeah, it is a war on Christmas, because Christmas is no longer a Christian holiday, right? And for many of us, it's no longer a holiday, right? I never considered Christmas a holiday. Christmas was like a period of work. It was like when I worked the most, right? And this idea that like, oh, it's a holiday and we should all get together with family and celebrate, and like, fuck that. Like, fuck that. It's obviously not what's happening. And we should do away with it and take capitalism with it. Yeah, and the capitalists are preparing for this stock market crash. Like, they're preparing, they're aware. And how do you know they're aware? Because the hedge funds are betting against the market. So the billionaires know that the stock market is about to crash. They know. Like, they're not, so they're betting so they're betting against the market, right? So that when it crashes, they can pilfer as much as they can out of it. And this next crash is going to revert the society to a true neo-feudalism. That, like, there's not going to be any more of this idea that we're a capitalist society. Like, that's over, right? That's over. Capitalism doesn't work. It collapses to the ground. You ever see some of these Republican leaders? You even see some of these Republican leaders advocating vaccines. They must have gotten word to their Chamber of Commerce masters to put their conspiracy theorist supporters aside. Well, eventually there just does come a point where, like, you got to start worrying about your own skin. This is what was always so odd to me about the climate change denialist funding, right? That the Koch brothers and ExxonMobil and all this kind of stuff. Like, I understand, like, money for me, I like money, but like, you can't make money transitioning away from fossil fuels. You can't make money by like starting a campaign saying like, hey, we need to transition away from fossil fuels. You can't like look at one another and be like, hey, we could be like at the basement of this and we could really start to push this along. No, you think it's going to make you more money and it's going to be better for you to fund a campaign of denialism, right? A campaign of denialism that should imprison these guys. I want to be very clear on that. Like, these guys should go to jail. We should arrest them and we should incarcerate them for this propaganda campaign that they inflicted upon the populace. Absolutely. And until we do so, I don't actually believe we're serious about climate change. Like, that to me is step one. That we arrest people like the Koch brothers, we arrest the CEOs of these oil companies, and we incarcerate them. Because what they did is a crime against humanity. That they got the information, and instead of saying, oh shit, okay, this is a crisis we need to be concerned about, we should transition away from this, right? And make as much money as we can doing that, fine, right? All of that kind of stuff. No, instead of that, we're going to plunge the society into a suicidal death spiral, right? And it's like insane. Like, it's insane. You want to get convinced that we're being ruled by children, right? Like, what did you think was going to happen? Plunging the society into a suicidal death spiral. Well, here it is. And it's going to impact them as well, right? Like, when the air becomes unbreathable, right? They are also not going to be able to breathe. Like, the hellscape society that they're creating is going to affect them as well. Like, but I think in their arrogance and their childish delusion and their hubris, they seem to think like, oh, well, I'll be protected for some reason. As if the universe is not able to smash someone like that into the ground, right? As if the universe won't be able to grab a hold of Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk and crush them, right? Like, it's just like hyper delusion. And so I think it's just survival. I think these Republicans are finally being like, oh shit, if we don't actually do this, this could come and bite us in the ass. Like, this could really bite us in the ass. Like, eventually there does come a point where petty politics get overwhelmed by just like, you can only deny that the barbarians are coming over the walls for so long, right? Like, until you finally pick up a sword and fight back. If kids didn't go to school in September, parents would lose their minds and the government would pay if there's an election. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what it all looks like. And we could have just another second wave, right? Remember, the second wave, there's a big spike up in September, October. They kept everything open for Christmas because they knew that they couldn't close back down over Christmas, because they knew if they closed over Christmas that would be the end of capitalism, right? And so they kept people working through this absurd nonsense. And what was shocking to me, I worked through that, and what was shocking to me is that consumers went along with it. Like, that's how gullible we are. Like, that's how married we are to this idea that capitalism, and I need to replace my the love I have for my children with a toy, right? Like, that's the worst part. Like, and that was kind of the heartbreaking part about working in a toy store. I saw this all the time. I saw people coming into the toy store constantly who did not spend time with their children, who because they couldn't, because they were so busy with capitalism, because capitalism was wasting their lives, and they were buying their kids toys with the money that they were making at the job that they hated, instead of being able to spend that time with their children. So they're literally like replacing the time that they lost with their kids with bullshit, with just like bullshit toys that the kid will play with for 5 minutes and then throw into the garbage can. And this is how capitalism attempts to resolve this issue of like, we know you love your children, but we refuse to allow you to spend any time with them. So buy them a toy. That'll do it. And it's embarrassing. And I hope as we grow up, we start to realize that like, no, I should be spending time with my kids. That time with my kids is what should happen. But the capitalist structure, doesn't tolerate that. I mean, I am for vaccines, but they should have factored hesitancy into their equation. Macron in France had he straight out said, if you don't get vaccinated, we won't let you into the restaurants. That's what he said, that he was going to pass legislation that if you didn't get a vaccine, you weren't going to be let into the restaurants, and then vaccinations like quadrupled overnight. He didn't even pass the legislation. He just threatened to pass the legislation, and then people were like, oh, okay, well, off we go. Christmas is like an annual fireworks show. It's supposed to get better every year with more oohs and ahs, according to capitalists. Yeah, but it just gets dumber. Like, it just gets dumber. And as you get older, like, I don't go to fireworks shows anymore. The last couple that I've been to, I like literally look up and I just think about how stupid it is. Like, I'm supposed to be like, and like, what are we celebrating exactly? Like, what exactly are we celebrating? Like, the majority of Canadians think that the next generation is going to be worse off. Like, let's start talking, like, and this is why I don't want to put up with these fucking like cheese guys. Right? Because they're delusional. They're in this 25% that's literally saying like, oh yeah, they'll be better off. Most of us think, 67% of us think that the next generation is going to be worse off. What are we celebrating exactly? Like, what are we celebrating exactly? I'm really struggling with that. Like, and that's what I'm struggling about Christmas, and that's what I'm struggling, like, all this kind of stuff. Like, what exactly are we celebrating? And near as I can tell, we're just celebrating our own destruction. And I'm just kind of not into that, right? Like, I'm not really into that. Did you see the Great Salt Lake is drying up and is turning into a desert that sends arsenic-laced dust into the atmosphere? Oh my god. How's that for a title, dude? Great Salt Lake drying up. Great Salt Lake is shrinking fast. Scientists demand action before it becomes a toxic dust bin. And like, this is what we're talking about. Like, there's feedback loops. Yeah, here we go. This is what we're talking about. The before and after shots are always the way. Right? September 24th, 2011, July 9th, 2020. So 10 years. Is this the same place? This doesn't look like the same place. Use the slider. Oh, I see. Okay, because it isn't. Okay. I understand now. It's not. I'm like, this isn't the same place. And okay. So we slide it. Look at that. Wow. See how effective this is? Like, that's effective. Holy shit. What? Like, I feel right now, I feel kind of like a minor deity. I'm like, and the land shall dry. Like, dude, the Great Salt Lake. Where exactly is this? Here, let's, the Great Salt Lake, Utah. Okay, so this is like right in the middle of Utah. Yeah, it's the continued desertification, right? That the Nevada desert, and of course the Arizona desert, like this big desert system that exists, it's expanding. It's expanding dramatically, right? And so this area, like, so the Great Salt Lake is drying up. Like, Perry and other scientists worry they're watching a slow-motion calamity unfold. 10 million birds flock to the Great Salt Lake to feed off its now struggling sea life. More pelicans breed here than most anywhere else in the country. The trouble trickles up the food chain. Yeah, I was just reading Naomi Klein's newest one, On Fire, and she really talked about this. How, like, look, the ecosystem, there's, like, subtle interactions, right? There's lots of subtle interactions that occur within an ecosystem. And if you've got, like, all these pelicans showing up to this area, well, eventually these guys are going to show up, and this is where they expect to breed and eat and spend a lot of time, and eventually they're going to show up and nothing's going to be here, right? But they rely on that. They need that. And so they're fucked. Like, they're just going to die off. They're not going to survive. They're not going to thrive. And then what interactions are they having on the ecosystem that other organisms and other life forms have come to rely on? And so that all breaks apart, right? Look at this. Little bison. Oh my God. Owens Lake, a mostly dry lake east of California's National Forest, was diverted to Los Angeles Aqueduct. Though some water is returning, its dry bed is the largest source of PM10 pollution, large inhalable dust particles in the nation. Great Salt Lake is much larger than Owens Lake, and whereas the population around Owens Lake is 40,000, there are more than 2 million people living around the Great Salt Lake. While human behavior remains scientists' primary concern, the lack of rain out west isn't helping. Great Salt Lake is now like water sitting in a plate, whereas most lakes resemble a cup. And like, it's becoming like daily, right? It wasn't that long ago. Weren't we talking about the declining water in the Nevada desert in the Hoover Dam, right? That the water had declined in the Hoover Dam, and like, it's becoming like daily. Almost every day I'm able to like show clear, provable evidence and of dramatic shifts in climate on an almost daily basis now. And like, this reminds me of the story that I heard recently where you had a paramedic woman where she was earning, $17 an hour. She had to quit her job, get an Uber for $15 because she couldn't afford the daycare. Yeah, $10 daycare to save the economy. Capitalism works though, guys. Totally works. You're frightening animals to death for 10 minutes of fireworks and $100,000 for nothing. Yeah, exactly. Like, and there's something like vaguely imperialistic about it, eh? Like something very like, look at how dominant we could, like these could be bombs. Right? It just, that's what it feels like. That feels like that's what the message a fireworks show is actually delivering. Be in shock and awe of our might, ye plebs. These could be bombs, but we choose to bedazzle you with them instead. Like that's kind of the message I walk away from a fireworks show with now. Like I'm not impressed. I'm not in awe. It's like a form of terrorism that we're inflicting on the populace. The Salt Lake Pictorial is blunt, in-your-face proof that climate change destruction is real. It's not just a political talking point. Yeah. Hazy skies and a decrease in air quality may impact parts of northeastern Georgia late this week due to smoke from wildfires from over 2,000 miles away. Lake Mead, yeah, fireworks are very triggering to refugees, yeah, because it sounds like bombs. Yeah, I smelled smoke on my walk this morning. Smelled like someone was burning leaves nearby. Yeah, like and what's terrifying to me about these wildfires, right? Like places have wildfires, right? Wildfires are common. They're part of the ecosystem. They're part of how the system works. But if we have wildfires happen all at once on the scale that they need, well, those wildfires are burning down the one resource we need to actually combat carbon in the atmosphere. And the article that I've read about the Amazon rainforest, that the Amazon rainforest is now no longer a carbon sink, but is actually producing carbon, right? Like this talks about the feedback loops that we can get into, right? That, the forest fires burnt down and release more carbon into the atmosphere, which then heats up the atmosphere more, which then creates more wildfires, and then the feedback loop begins and we can't stop it, right? And what happens, people seem completely unaware that like there are methane pockets that are beneath the ice in the Arctic. And if those methane pockets are released into the atmosphere, it's going to accelerate this process in a dramatic way. And this is why when I was talking to Dimitri, I made that video to Dimitri, I said to him, like, we need to be talking about this like a war effort. Like, we can't be talking about this in this like soft kind of pathetic way. Like the capitalist system has plunged us into a kind of ecocide, and is going to continue plunging us into this ecocide. And if we don't actually start talking about this like it's a war effort, like we need to be going to war, and if we don't start talking to people about how like we are going to have to sacrifice things, we are going to have to do this. And of course the most dangerous force in the conversation is the United States military. That the United States military is one of the biggest polluters out there. And so if the American imperial empire continues going around the world and destroying everything, stealing those resources, well, that's going to just ramp up the pollution, isn't it? Well, isn't that nice, Onward? What a lovely thought that is. I saw two owls on an early morning walk last week sitting on a limb and beautifully silhouetted by the sunrise. That's a lovely image. That's a lovely image. In the midst of all of it, it is good to stop and remember. I think I'm going to bookmark this one. Because, like, this is very effective. Capitalism works, you guys. Look, capitalism's working. Guys, look, capitalism's working. Some good news today. The child tax credit increased by a few cents starting today. More votes for the Liberals. Yay. You mean the child tax credit, which was started by the Stephen Harper administration, right? Like, that's the thing that kills me about the basic income conversation here in Canada. Like, the child tax credit, the child tax benefit was started by Stephen Harper. Like, I don't get it. Like, I don't get why this has become a thing. Oh yeah, we were looking at our neoliberalism. Biden to announce sanctions on Cuba officials. It's the comments that are going to be cursed, right? Like, it's the comments that are going to be worst. Actually, fairly solid move. Good job, Biden. Damn, it's been a while since I've said that for his foreign policy. In all manners except trade policy, Biden doctrine is shaping up to be a substantial improvement on Obama doctrine. Like, you want to talk about like the most delusional fucking people. You are going into our neoliberal, dude. Like, it's just cringy, embarrassing bullshit. Like it is just like watching people cope, right? Like that people can't handle what the truth is, and so they're just coping, right? Black Lives Matter is supporting the exploitation of Cuban workers. Like, oh, comments. Oh, the CIA, they're on to me, guys. They're not letting the comments load because they know I'm showing the truth. I'm here and I'm showing you the truth. Oh man, my voice is so totaled that I can't even do my Alex Jones impression. I do a really good Alex Jones impression. Not as good as Joe Rogan's. Joe Rogan does a really good one, but anyway. Why Biden's approval rating has barely budged in his first 6 months. Yeah, Joe Biden. Biden's obsession with scoring a bipartisan deal suddenly looks quite doable. Anyway, enough of that. I don't want to spend any more time on that. The richest man just went to space for fun in the same month a billion animals cooked to death, and hundreds of people died in record-breaking heat waves, flooding and fires that are still raging around the world. Our survival isn't compatible with their evil and greed. It's a grim look at our future. The wealthiest will play with their expensive toys and build incredible bunkers with the money they took from taxpayers and off the backs of underpaid and abused workers, while we suffer and die in climate catastrophes. They'll continue to pollute the earth and hoard wealth because they believe they'll survive the climate crisis. There's an inhuman evil in these billionaires, oil company CEOs, etc., that the death of billions doesn't matter as long as they survive and don't have to give up an inch. That's it, man. That's it. And, like, I am starting to notice and I am starting to see that, like, the CIA operations are beginning to create, like, leftist platforms. They see the way the wind is blowing and they're trying to co-opt, right? They're trying to come in. The first comment here is, like, big time skeptical of this far too recently reformed fascist account, right? Like, so this could simply be like a CIA operative who is just like, we need to galvanize support. We need to control dissent, right? Hey Gunk, how you doing, bud? Good to see you. Trudeau started in his speech today that the CTC started in 2016 by him. Oh, maybe the child. You're talking about the child tax credit. I'm talking about the child care benefit, which is different. The capitalist death cult will do anything to distract people from environmental collapse. Divide and conquer, yeah. More money for tar sands, no real plan for climate change. Yeah, exactly. Because the role of the CIA and the role of the FBI and these is to protect capital, right? It's not to protect us. It's not to protect the world. It's to protect capital. And if you're putting capital ahead of all other concerns, well, then you're completely willing. Like I was showing this, Gunk. Look at this. This is what's happening in Utah, in the Great Lake, right? Got a little slider here. Well, and this is July 9th, 2021. Here's September 24th, 2011. Whoa. Like anybody that wants to tell me that climate change is not a problem, right? Anybody that wants to talk about climate change not being a problem, now officially gets to shut the fuck up. And anybody who gets to tell me that like capitalism is actually working needs to shut the fuck up. Like that's embarrassing, childish bullshit now. Like these guys sound like children. The people who are defending capitalism sound like childish bullshit. It's just unbelievable. Once again, Justin Trudeau looks set to break an explicit promise. He's preparing to purchase the wildly expensive, offensive F-35 he said he'd scrap so Canadian Air Force can take center stage in future U.S. NATO bombing of some impoverished, distant land. Yeah. Basic income's too expensive, though, guys. And capitalism's working, by the way. Oh, I actually really like this one. This is really great. This comes from the survey is done by Sputnik Polls, right? The survey was conducted by VCIOMM Vector Ipsos. So it's a branch of Ipsos, if you're familiar with Ipsos Reid, right? So this is a branch of their organization. The number of respondents who believe that life in the USSR was better than after the collapse of the Soviet Union. The black indicates 35 to 64 years, right? The white indicates 18 to 24 years. So let's be really clear. The black bar is the people who lived through it, the people who actually experienced it, who experienced communism in the USSR before and then after. And then the white indicates the people who didn't experience it and have just been sort of listening to what they're being told. So if you're in Azerbaijan, 69% think that life was better in the USSR before. Armenia, 71%. Belarus, 53%. Georgia, 51%. Kazakhstan, 61%. Kyrgyzstan, 60%. Moldova, for whatever reason, the youth think that it was better more than the people who lived through it, but still 60%. Russia, right, 64%. Tajikistan, 39%. Ukraine, right? The people who were supposed to be led to believe are the victims of USSR and all of this, 60%. So the people who actually lived through the fall of the Soviet Union, the people who actually experienced communism and then not communism, right? In big majorities are turning around and saying, oh, hey, life was better under communism. Life was better under communism. Which, in my view, like if you take a look at this and you're somebody like Putin, for example, right? Vladimir Putin, right? And you're taking a look at this, you got to know that like people look at communism fondly, and these are people who you rule. And I think it's why Putin is so friendly with China. Well, a reason why. There are lots of reasons to be friendly with China if you're Russia, because I mean, like you share a border, right? China looks like it wants to do some really good trade relations. I mean, if I'm Russia, I'm going to be on board with all of that. But like Putin's Russia, he's got to be looking at this Chinese communism, and he's got to be thinking like, man, like we could do this. Like we could do this. And the populace is going to go along with me, it looks like, right? That it's just kids, like literally 18 to 24. So kids, right? Kids who don't know anything. They didn't live through it. They're just listening to the neoliberal propaganda, right? But they don't know. And meanwhile, the people who actually lived through it, right? So this is a great graph. Did I save this? Save images. Save. Oh, I did save it, but that's fine. What do we got? Trillions and trillions missing from the Pentagon over the past 20 years, perhaps for underground bunkers, in part at least. I can't imagine wanting to do that. Like think of like that's your solution, underground bunkers. And I can't imagine like how diluted do you have to be? Like that's got to be very expensive, right? Like underground bunkers, instead of using like even a small portion of that to resolve this climate change issue. Like that's the thing that's kind of embarrassing about the climate change issue. It's that it's not that expensive to resolve, right? It just requires the doing of it. It's not that expensive. It's way less expensive than the wars throughout the Middle East. And so this idea that they looked at the situation and they're like, oh yeah, we got to build bunkers. It's like, what the fuck? Like how diluted and out of touch do you have to be? I mean, they are pretty diluted and out of touch, so. Climate change of Israel ended debate, yeah. Yep, bombing for Israel and oil. Welcome to this great group. Isn't that nice of you to say, DM, you champion? Capital holds the resources to defend itself. Yeah, that's right. And that's communism in extreme austerity circumstances defending itself against imperialists. Oh, yeah. And once again, like, I like keeping this one open. So you take a look, even in, where's the United States on this? U.S. 57% of people in the U.S. think that the next generation is going to be worse off, right? That you have to go to places like Russia and Poland to see this go up. And I've seen China. China thinks that people are going to be well off. And of course, if you're in emerging economies, right, you're thinking very well. And then of course in South America, it's a little bit divided, a little bit more divided, leaning more towards the negative. But like, if you're in the Western economies, things are going to get worse. And it doesn't take a genius to figure out that, like, yeah, if they're willing to send jackboots into homeless encampments to clear them out, like, they're going to do that to you. They're going to do that to you. I just love this because it's Jen Zedong. I've been seeing this more and more, that they're taking this picture of Stalin and they're starting to like put like Justin Bieber quotes or all this kind of shit on it. I'm pretty sure there's more to life than being really, really ridiculously good looking, and I plan on finding out what that is. Joseph Stalin. And like you see, they got like all the like silly stuff and all this shit. But like you look at him, yeah, what a good looking guy, eh? Like, this is him in his youth. Like, this is one of the Tsarists' photos for, like, the wanted posters that they put up for him. And he's a pretty good-looking guy, eh? It makes sense that people gravitated to him as a leader, eh? Like, what a handsome devil. They trusted in knowing there was food and housing and medical care, but now they're on their own trying to figure it out. Most probably afford anything from another country. Yeah, I think that that's right, Ruth. I think that that's right. I think that I mean, if you lived through a society that was like providing education, providing healthcare, providing all this kind of stuff, really trying to help people, and then suddenly you get this neoliberal agenda of abandonment, yeah, I mean, I know which way I'd go. Anyway. Sex is great, but have you ever fantasized about seizing country clubs, turning them into homeless shelters, and letting nature reclaim the golf courses? Yeah, golf courses have got to be the most aggressively bullshit thing, right? Like, literally, here is a ton of usable land that you could easily have grow crops on, that you could do all kinds of stuff with. But instead, we're going to let rich people walk around with a club and a ball. Hey, the Max, how you doing, bud? Haven't seen you in the live stream in a long time. Oh, God, we got a real party going on here, guys. Oh, my goodness. How many people are in here? That's the playback. Only 11 at the moment. Oh, people must be dropping in and out. That's fine. That's fine. Still, though, this is great. What a great day. I'm going to warn you right now, the Max. My voice is shot. I'm trying so hard, but boy, howdy. Pro-capitalists are now using this phrase against the communists on Reddit. I see this a lot now. You'll own nothing and you'll be happy. But, like, how is that against the communists, right? Like, I gotta tell you, I'm pretty much a minimalist. Like, I don't want to own a lot of stuff. Like, I don't have this ambition to like own a house and a car and a helicopter and a mansion and all this kind of stuff. And anytime I actually like see people who are living that life, it seems to just be a gigantic pain in their ass, right? It just seems like it absorbs an awful lot of their time, and it takes an awful lot of effort, and it seems like it's a big, big pain in their ass. And I have always viewed myself as a minimalist, right? That like, I don't really want to own that much. And like, I saw my own dad, right? My own dad got to the end of his life, and not to the end of his life, but like he got into retirement, and he moved out of his house and had to shut his business down and all that, and that looked like a big gigantic fucking pain in the ass. It looked like a big gigantic fucking pain in the ass. And I'm just like, I don't understand why we are so kind of anti-minimalism, and why we have this idea that if we do a lot of stuff, and if we make a lot of stuff, and if we own a lot of stuff, that somehow that will make us happy. And I'm just like, I think we should just chill the fuck out, read books, play video games, make music, like, make art and enjoy each other's art and just chill the fuck out, right? And I don't get why, like, we can justify in our minds giving the food and shelter to a criminal, to, like, literally, like, a pedophile. Like, not like somebody who's like, I stole a loaf of bread for my family, but, like, literally, like, a murderous rapist, we will gladly pay for their food and shelter for the rest of their lives. But, like, a single mother working 2 jobs, it just seems abhorrent to us to give them food and shelter, right? Like, it's just blisteringly backwards. I prefer access over ownership. Yeah, and, like, why not create, like, tool libraries? Why not have, like, library systems? Why not have, like, vehicle libraries? Like, this kind of shit. Oh, look at you, DM. Doing capitalism for me. It's a good idea. John's voice is struggling, make him feel better. Give a loony or 2 to his Patreon page. You sweetheart. Look at you. Please do it, though. Like, share, or subscribe. Right? Do all that kind of stuff, guys. It's you guys are really wonderful. Thank you so much. You guys are the ones that really make this a fun adventure, man. Which is why I want to get rid of these fucking guys coming in and be like, capitalism for sure works. Like, go fuck off. Fuck off. Get out of here. Get the fuck out of here. I think if that guy had to come in and actually ask some, like, genuine questions, I think this is the distinction. This is the difference, I think. Like, if somebody comes in and is actually like, I think capitalism's okay, and is, like, asking questions, that's fine. But I think the thing that finally set me off with that guy is when he said, like, you're using a Windows computer. Like, it's, like, the dumbest, fucking stupidest possible position. Like, literally, like, just a 7-year-old, like, Ben Shapiro fucking coming in and being like, oh, you're using a computer? Oh, I'm curious. Like, fucking dumb, moronic bullshit of this just like, oh, checkmate. Yeah, if people had their natural needs met, food, shelter, community, art, and education, people wouldn't buy useless consumer products. Well, maybe they would. Right? Maybe they would. But, like, and I just think it's the thing that scares the capitalists the most about everyone having their needs met is that people will do stuff outside of the capitalist system. That, like, instead of buying useless consumer products that are made by capitalists or monopolists or, like, big billionaires, they'll instead make... they'll instead buy useless crap made by the guy that lives next door. And the guy that lives next door will be able to do all the kind of stuff. Yeah, I think that's what it is, DM. They just want to waste time. Exactly. And it's like a form of intellectual masturbation what they're doing, right? That, like, they're coming in and being like, you're using a Windows computer. Yeah, hypocrisy, checkmate. Ha ha ha. It's like, I don't really want to watch a guy jerk off in front of me, right? Like, that's really what it is. Like, I'm just not interested in watching somebody jerk off in front of me. Oh, yeah. Patents themselves are a big public failing. Absolutely, the max. Absolutely. Corrections Corporation of America, the largest for-profit prison company in America, spends nearly $1 million a year against cannabis legalization. This is their official reason why. Changes with respect to drugs and controlled substances could affect the number of persons arrested, convicted, and sentenced, thereby potentially reducing demand for correctional facilities to house them. Capitalism's working, though, guys. Capitalism, yeah, it's working. It's the greatest system in the world. Human progress. I wonder if Cheese and Axel are one and the same. I don't know. I think Axel would come in and be Axel, I think. I do think Axel ultimately was a fascist. Like, I think ultimately that guy was a fascist. Because he told me that he was going to tweet my channel out. And then, hey, Barnabas, how you doing, bud? And then he told me he was going to tweet the channel out. And then suddenly, over the next few days, I was dealing with outright fascists for like a good period of time. And so I really am starting to make the connection between people who are pro-capitalist and just fascist. And like, this is why I think I'm going to have a pretty low tolerance. Like, if people come in and they seem to be asking questions and they seem to be doing that kind of stuff, but if they're coming in and they're being, like, Ben Shapiro kind of contradictory, I think I'm just going to get rid of them and call them stupid, because they are. They're just children. They're just fucking children that don't grow up. Oh, I love this one. Nova Scotia Liberals on one this week. Justin Trudeau blackface. No, can't do that. Oh, this is totally fine, though. This is completely fine. I don't know the full story on that. I think I actually asked in the latest nonsense in the news in the NS election, the Nova Scotia election. A guy running for the Nova Scotia Liberal Party in a safe Tory riding in Cape Breton did a Charlie Chaplin outfit for Halloween more than a decade ago. Oh, okay. The irony, though, is that it released whatever her name is. Okay. Well, what's the problem here? I mean, I get what they're trying to infer. They're trying to be like, oh, it's Hitler, but he did a Charlie Chaplin. So this is disingenuous. This is disingenuous. But still, at the same time, it does kind of flow into this point about her. Versus this, and I mean, Justin Trudeau did do blackface, so let's never forget. When I start doing my election coverage, when the election is actually announced, and I do, like, I'm going to do a series of videos talking about the leaders of the party and what they represent and all of that, and to try and give people a very clear image from a communist perspective about who these guys are. And when I do that, I am going to absolutely be using Justin Trudeau's blackface photo. It is. I'm not interested in presenting Justin Trudeau as like, not interested in being balanced when it comes to Justin Trudeau. He's gonna be in blackface. He's gonna be in that Aladdin costume. That's what he's gonna look like on this channel. Everything would be an open source in a communist system. Yeah, I think so. We could have competitive cooperation to make the best things that last. No planned obsolescence. I completely agree with that, the max. I've been saying that over and over again. I think if you cannot make an item that lasts 20 years as a guarantee, then it shouldn't be made. Period. Like, period. And we know they can make them. We know they can make them. My dad will constantly talk about the 1969 Toyota. Was it Toyota or was it Hyundai? Anyway, and there was actually a, was it the 1969? Top Gear 1969 Toyota. Yeah, killing a Toyota, right? So I don't know if I can play this, so I'm not going to, but the story is really, like, they decided to make a Toyota truck that was indestructible, that it literally couldn't break, and then it could be repaired with simple tools, right? Literally like a wrench. And the guys from Top Gear, so this vehicle earned like a very impressive reputation. You find it throughout the Middle East. It's like this indestructible vehicle. These guys in Top Gear, they submerged this vehicle in the ocean, right? They let the tide come in on the vehicle. They walked up to it. They were prepared to repair it. They put the key in, they turned it, and the thing came to life. They were just like, oh, we don't even need to repair it. Literally, it got washed in by the tide, still ready to go. They put it on top of a building, right? They put it on top of a building and then blew the building up. And that's the picture you're looking at right here. They blew the building up. Of course, the axle was smashed, so there's no repairing that with small tools. But they went up and they tinkered with the engine, turned the key, and the engine came on, right? So they built this fucking thing to be indestructible. It was built in '69, and it's doing that today, right? They know how to do it. They know they can do it, but because capitalism fails and it doesn't work, they build these things to not work, right? And so my position is very simply, like, if you cannot build a vehicle that lasts at least 20 years, then you don't build it. It doesn't get done. It doesn't get built. Fuck your capitalism. Fuck that shit. I don't give a shit. Get it out of here. So fucking stupid. Capitalism works, though. Yeah, when the U.S. new aircraft carrier is made by Arkansas 56 years ahead of schedule, U.S. testing its new gigantic 13 billion aircraft carrier. Like, what do you think the problem is, guys? Like, what do you think's happening in the world? Right? Do you think the 13 billion we spent on this aircraft? And look, they made this thing to look like the fucking Death Star. Like, look at this. It's not the Death Star. This is like a Star Destroyer, though. Look at this fucking thing. Like, look at this fucking thing. Holy shit. And they're using red? Like, and they paint it black? Like, fuck you guys. You're evil. They know it, too, eh? Like, they know. They know how fucking evil they are. The government held all the ministers for a meeting about the racism and anti-Semitism. Now they didn't invite Anime Paul, that is Jewish. Did that happen? Oh, my God. Oh my God! I know that Anime Paul might not be the leader, though. Like, there's a real fight going on in the Green Party right now. Like, it's really fucking happening. U.S. Senate just voted to make women register for draft. American planning something big, dude. I will go to prison. Like, if somebody drafts me, although Canada doesn't really have a big long history of being drafted, but like, if there is a draft that goes through and they attempt to draft me, I'll go to jail instead. I absolutely will. And I think everybody should. Like, no, don't get drafted. And if so the U.S. Senate just voted to make women register for draft? That sounds scary. That sounds like Let's Invade China level scary. Not just vehicles, toasters, fridges, stoves being built today are not supposed to last more than 5 years. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I would be a very poor soldier. I would be a very poor soldier. I wouldn't even attempt to be a good soldier. I'd be like what's his name? Bill Murray in Stripes, right? That's kind of the soldier I would be. And look at this fucking aircraft. This thing looks like a goddamn toy. This looks like something from a fucking video game. This just looks like it's supposed to appeal to, like, children, which makes sense given that we're a nation of children, right? Like, why are we building this shit? To what end? And, like, the justification that people use for, like, oh, well, we need to have a big military because if we don't, then someone else might. And it really is just like, oh, so you have a fantasy. Like, you live in a fantasy world where someone might do something, and that justifies the actions that you actually do. Right? Like, this is the level of childishness that we're talking about. That, oh, someone might do something. Well, how about we worry about what they are doing? Right? How about we worry about what they are doing? And how about we focus on what we are doing instead of what people might do? But because we live in this sort of fantasy space most of the time, where we're more concerned about what other nations might do, and that concern is, of course, highly xenophobic and highly racist. 13 billion could probably solve homelessness. Like the homelessness crisis is solvable. Like, it doesn't cost that much. There would be a lot of draft dodgers. Yeah, absolutely. I actually knew a draft dodger. I actually worked with a guy who was a draft dodger. You think we'll live to see PLA troops patrolling down Vancouver, Seattle, with the U.S. bombing it to take it back? Why am I blanking on what PLA stands for? PLA. Why am I blanking on what that means, Barnabas? I'm too tired. Barnabas, you're making me think of things. Stop it. Stop it, Barnabas. Oh yeah, this is friggin' great.
Question that's illogical. That's underway, just like the other question that's illogical. And I've heard you speak about it because I'm not being solicitous, but you're always straight up about what you're doing. And the question is whether or not we should be in a position where you are. Why can't the experts say we know that this virus is in fact it's going to be or excuse me, we know why all the drugs approved are not temporarily approved, but permanently approved. That's underway too. I expect that to occur quickly.
Well, that means you mean for the FDA?
For the FDA.
Yeah.
So Joe Biden has dementia, right? Like we know that that's true, right? Like we could take a look at this.
That's underway, just like the other question that's illogical. And I've heard you speak about it because I'm not being solicitous, but you're always straight up about what you're doing. And the question is whether or not we should be in a position where you are. Why can't the experts say we know that this virus is in fact it's going to be, or excuse me, we know why all the drugs approved are not temporarily approved but permanently approved.
So if I wanted to be fair to Joe Biden here, right? Like, and let's be fair, because I don't want to make light of the realities of becoming elderly, and I don't want to make light of things like dementia, and I don't want to make light of that kind of stuff. Truly, like he's still a human being. He still has this kind of stuff, and like the truth is that like he's probably on that stage for like he's probably there for like 3 hours, right? And he's an old man, and so this clip kind of taken out of context, right, bereft of that kind of stuff. Like really, like couldn't I just say that he just lost his train of thought? Like you guys have seen me do that, where I've been like, oh, it's this guy, what's his name? Like
that's
he just
underway
loses
too.
his train of thought.
And the question is whether or not we
should
should be in a position.
But the thing is that like Joe Biden is the president of the United States. He's got his finger on the button. He's dropping bombs in Syria, right? He's dropping bombs. He's doing some pretty high level fascist shit in the world, and it's kind of scary. It's kind of scary to see the guy who is like literally wreaking havoc across the world, enacting sanctions, basically the head of a neo-fascist country, like kind of blinking out and just being like, oh, what am I talking about? And you kind of hope that the guy that's at the head of that, at the tip of that spear, has got a bit more clarity going on, right? Come on, man. Come on, man. Oh, we got a link in the Discord. Can I safely open the Discord? Yes, I can. What do we got here, bud? Just past Alexandria Park. It's closed for filming. Huh. Fucking barbaric. Fucking barbaric. This is awful. The city displaces people from a city park to then turn around 2 days and rent it to a private film studio. Fuck you, John Tory. Fuck you, John Tory. Holy fuck. That's brutal. That's fucking brutal, dude. The moment the fascist state starts to mandate women should also fight in any war the estate deems critical. Seriously, America, don't you see it? Oh, man. To be fair, this is just a Senate panel, right? So this is just a Senate panel. This isn't actually the Senate itself. That, if we dig a little deeper, Senate Armed Service Committee has approved language in its annual defense policy bill that would require women to register for the draft. So this isn't like, this hasn't actually been pushed through the Senate or the House, and it's not actually ratified, but it is like kind of scary that that's kind of coming down the pipe. And it's kind of scary that they're thinking about drafts. It's kind of scary that they're doing all that kind of stuff. Don't stare too long into the, come on, man. Come on, come on, man. Come on, man. You know, we live in America. America is the greatest country in the world. You know, America is the greatest country in the world, and we gotta fight, man. Come on. And if we don't fight for America and for come on, then the come on, man, we'll put a bunch of malarkey in our lap, and we can't handle that malarkey if we go forward without any come on, man. So come on, man. I think that's a really good impression. I think I've got a really good impression of Joe Biden going on there. Well, when it comes to the issue of, come on, man, we gotta stop with all the malarkey and start remembering that America is the greatest country in the world. People today think that America is not the greatest, come on, man, and the malarkey in the world. And if we don't convince people that that's all malarkey and that's all, come on, man, then they won't know that America is the greatest, come on, man, in the world. I would rather have Sleepy Joe than Lunatic Trump, but it's all optics, right? It's all optics. Like at least Trump was funny. Like at least Trump was funny. Like at least Trump would, like, you didn't know what was going to happen next with him. But I think people got exhausted with that. That's scary. It's scary to think of somebody like Trump having control of the nukes, right? Like at least Joe, you're kind of like, oh yeah, Sleepy Joe, right? Like the worst is that he's going to like fall asleep or lose his train of thought or something. And ultimately Joe is a statesman, right? He knows how to play that game. He knows how to be a statesman. And people do understand that a lot of international politics is optics. It is just like, how do you look in the world? Like how do you look to the other nations? And Joe Biden is a representative, right? He goes and talks to these people. But of course, and of course Joe's going to treat people with respect. He's going to treat Merkel with respect. He's going to treat these other leaders with respect. And, that's good. So there's something there. But at the same time, like, he still bombs the shit out of everything. Like, he's still checking off on just like, yeah, let's bomb Syria, man. Come on, man. You don't want to bomb Syria? That's a bunch of malarkey. Because, like, those bombs are definitely worth something. They definitely, capitalism works, you guys. Look, capitalism's working. Capitalism works. I should always have this link open. I should always have this link open for trolls. That's what I'm doing from now on. This is going to be troll defense. They're gonna come in and they're gonna be like, nah, capitalism and all this kind of stuff. They're like, hey, this is Salt Lake City, 10-year difference. Capitalism's working. Capitalism's working. Capitalism's working. You're a stupid guy. Yes, you are. You're so stupid. Stupid. I'm doing it. That's what I'm doing. Yes, I'm going to troll the trolls. I'm going to troll them with music, with the grandness of song. They'll come in and I'll flip over. Oh, here's Salt Lake City. Before, after. Oh, capitalism's working, you guys. It's definitely not plunging us into an apocalypse. We're not gonna die even though all the evidence shows otherwise. Capitalism's working. Yes, it is. Yes, I think I've figured it out. Because ultimately, guys, it's all about entertaining you. That's what it's all about, right? You guys keep coming in here so that we can talk about this shit. You guys keep coming in here so that we can all come into solidarity with one another and maybe organize and maybe figure out what the hell to do at all, and maybe any of that. But at the end of the day, we really are all in here so that we can laugh and cry together while we witness the decline of our society. And the only thing that's annoying about these, like, capitalism's great coming in is that they, like, override everything. And then instead we're fighting against this asshole instead, or trying to convince him that reality is real. No more of that. No more of that. So I am going to turn it into... yes, it is about a united front. Absolutely, Barnabas. You're absolutely right. And so I am going to turn the trolls. I'm going to troll the trolls. We're all going to have a great time making fun of these fucking idiots. Capitalism's working. Capitalism's working. Look at it work as it destroys the earth. Capitalism's the best. Don't you know? Don't you know? I've done it. I figured it out. I figured it out. Good to see you, Onward. Thanks for popping in, bud. Good to see you. Oh, this fucking thing. Look at this. This looks like something from Command and Conquer. This looks like fucking just like it was designed by some 18-year-old fucking idiot. Oh, I've run out of stuff that I've prepared. Okay, so we're into the shared ideals are a sturdier material to build a nation than mere ethnic or cultural difference. Yikes. Yikes. Oh, this is coming out of Andrew Coyne? I'm surprised to see something like this come out of Andrew Coyne. I still see people... But, like, this isn't actually true, right? We actually have great documentation that's come out of the United States military itself that that says that when they create their squads, right, they actively attempt to fill their squads with diversity of people with diverse backgrounds, because what they find is that that forces the people to learn about each other and learn how to work with one another, and it creates deeper bonds within the squad. And so having a diverse nation, having a nation of diversity that acknowledges diversity, means that you're going to have a stronger nation ultimately, so long as you accept that that diversity is acceptable. And so my concern... And I feel like this is being done. Like, Andrew is right, and of course Andrew is a good writer, and I think is like I peg him as a rational conservative. That's sort of where I put him. Like, he's like a red Tory. Like, he's not crazy, and he's written some like pretty pro basic income articles and stuff like this. Like the Constitution, yeah. Which is, and I just think if you're comparing us to the Americans, dude, the Americans, for all their faults, get this. I'm like, really? Like, really? You're talking about a pro-America game right now, bud? We should understand Canadian values for what they are, right? Canadian values is a very big dog whistle. So, not as qualities of character with which we are exceptionally endowed, but as moral duties to which we are called. What are these Canadian values exactly? Yeah. Andrew Coyne, come on, bud. Might be worth actually talking about this issue a little bit deeper in a video. Because I actually like Andrew Coyne, right? That's the thing. Like he's like a conservative that I can... okay, isn't Andrew Coyne a Rex Murphy's subordinate? I don't think so. He sort of is in and around that kind of thing, but I've seen Coyne, like I've disagreed with him on stuff, obviously, because he's a conservative, and he is a conservative, but he acknowledges that reality is real. You know what I mean? Like he's like, he sees that climate change is real. He sees that he wrote a really interesting article that I really spread it around for a long time. I used as a basics for a long time for my stuff on the basic. Oh, it was actually right there. Come on, there it goes. This is a National Post article, right? This was published in 2018. 3 points on the GST to end poverty. Guaranteed income sounds like a good deal, right? And he basically just puts out the idea that, like, look, a basic income, it could end poverty. The cost it would be the equivalent of raising the GST by 3 points. We should do it. We should do it. And this is really the moment when I took a look at Andrew Coyne and I was like, a rational conservative. How rare. How rare. Yeah, I think I would call him like a red Tory, right? Like, and red Tory is a term in Canada that generally means, rational conservative. It's like the red Tories whenever they got into power, they would actually do government spending and they would do things, right? And they were known for that. And they were known for wanting to be like small scale and efficient and all that. But like, for example, in Manitoba, my home province, the Red Tories, when they came in, they tripled the provincial budget spending. They tripled it, right? And why did they triple it? Because they erected an education system that didn't exist, right? They literally put in an education system that didn't exist. And so it's like, oh, okay. Like, do you think that's a good thing to do? Do you think it's good to have an education system, right? I think it's a completely rational thing to say that we should have an education system. And they tripled the size of the provincial budget to do it. And that's a conservative party that did that, right? Today's conservative party would just be like, well, go fuck off. If you can't afford education, why should I pay for your education, right? This idiotic sort of childish way of looking at the world. And yeah. And essentially when it comes to Andrew Coyne, I am yet to see an article come out of him that tips him over, right? That tips him over to the other side. Where I start to say, oh, okay, Andrew, like you're starting to lose touch a little bit. Like Rex Murphy lost touch, right? Rex Murphy is out of touch. He is like just completely deluded. And I'm worried that Andrew Coyne is going to get there as well. And so when I see this kind of thing, I start to get a little bit like, okay, Andrew, are you getting a little old? Are you getting a little old, maybe? So, but I don't want to peg it on him without actually reading the article. So I'm going to put that aside and maybe do an article about it. Maybe do something about it. Yeah, abolish the police. Like, I mean, come on. Toronto cops filmed beating people while destroying homeless camp. Like, I genuinely think that there are police officers. I should be really clear when I say this. When I was working in funeral services. Oh. I'll share that right after this, Stambox. Thank you. And hey, I don't think I've said hi to you, bud. How you doing? Yeah, Kevin O'Leary. Like Kevin O'Leary is like, he is the face, in my view, of modern conservatism, right? This sort of like psychotic ethos, celebrating people's poverty, right? No, Kevin O'Leary is just popular, right? He's a big reason, like I say all the time, right? Fascism is popular. Kevin O'Leary, right? He's a fascist. When I was in funeral services, I encountered lots of police officers all the time. And most of them were just kind of good old boys. They were just like, yeah, I'm a cop. Yeah, okay, we're here. Yeah, we can be over here. You guys need any help? Any of that kind of stuff. Just normal good old boys. They want to talk about hockey. They want to drink beer, right? Real straightforward, normal kind of guys. Just good old boys. And then more often than not, I would, if I encountered a cop that was kind of a pain, they were only a pain because they kind of had that Hermione Granger energy, that kind of puritanical, like, we need to uphold some kind of righteousness, or we need to uphold like a perspective of we need to uphold a virtue or something like that, right? Like, I remember one time I was moving a woman who was very overweight, and I was having a bad day, and so I swore. And then this cop reports me to my superiors, and I get a talking to, because it's like, oh, don't swear. And it's like, okay, like, this is some childish bullshit, but okay, fine. But every so often, I would encounter a cop who I could tell, and in some occasions were very overt about it, and very conversational about it, that they were there to crack people's heads open. That's what their job was, and that the police force needed people like this. to go in and behead crackers. And that's why he was there. That's what he was paid to do. And so I can genuinely see a situation like this where you need to form like a posse to go in and clear homeless encampments. I can genuinely see how a person like that would really, really kind of get giddy about it even. Get like, oh, good, an excuse to beat people up, right? Oh, good, an excuse to go in there and have a fight. Oh, good, I can really use my billy club now, right? I can see it. I can see it for sure. And like, yeah. So your clip here, Dan Boxes, did you put it in the live stream? Yeah, you did. TikTok.
We could make two statements about capitalism to show how backward it is. About America. America's a capitalist country. It's thoroughly capitalist. It's an imperialist country. But we could say that, number one, America is the most technologically advanced country in the world. And that's an undeniable fact. It's a truism. It's a truism. America is the most scientifically developed country in the world. And right under that, we could say a second fact, which will show you how backward America is. We could say that America, in 1945, made for her people better cars than she does in 1973. And if you analyze this, you'll see how vicious the system is, because here's America with its great technological skills, its great scientific ability, and rather than making a safe car for people that will last 20 years, which they can do with the scientific knowledge that's at their fingertip, they rather take this knowledge and build a car which will break down every 2 years, so you're forced to buy another car. Thus, you see, under capitalism, what they do is they take their scientific skills, and rather than using it for the benefit of the people, they use it to further exploit the people. And certainly this type of system is too backward. Let me show you how backward capitalism is. It's a backward system. We could make two statements about capitalism to show how backward it is.
Oh,
about America. America's a capitalist country.
It looped. Yeah, this guy's just nailing it, right? This guy's nailing it. Just so you guys know, Miranda is actually a good friend of mine. So when she's in here, you listen to what she has to say, because she's an excellent person. I know her personally. And she's letting everybody know every Thursday at 5 p.m. there's protests at Toronto Police Headquarters at College and Yonge if people are interested. Now, that's going to mean that you guys are going to miss my live stream if you go. You should go. You should go. I got to figure out a way to do like a live stream out in the world. Because like I definitely want to start going to more protests. And I'd love to go to this. Every Thursday at 5 p.m., there's a protest at Toronto Police Headquarters at College and Yonge. Oh, yeah. I gotta... Do you, Miranda, do you know if there is a website or something that people can go to? Protests at Toronto Police Headquarters, Toronto. Oh, I put Toronto twice. That's fine. Like, is there something that I can like show people that gets that across very quickly? Is there an image or a website or a Facebook group even? Any of that kind of stuff? Ah, well. Oh, there you go. Yeah, that'd do it. That'd do it. We've got an inside track, guys. We've got an inside track. So people are showing up Thursdays, 5 p.m. Toronto Police Headquarters. Okay, hold on. Thursday, 5 p.m. I'm gonna write that down, and I'm gonna let other people know that, and I'm gonna spread that around. Cause like, and Miranda, get this. People are sharing on my Discord server. Look at this. Just past Alexandra Park, which was just cleared, right, with this police crackdown, it's closed for filming. Huh. This is awful. The city displaces people from a city park to then turn around in 2 days and rent it to a private film studio. Huh. So, like...
country.
Yeah, it's very doubtful that it was about their safety. Capitalism's working. Capitalism's working. Ah, goodness. Goodness, goodness. Anti-vaxxers, I feel no man. Castro is back and leading Honduras presidential race? What? No, there's probably a fellow with the last name Castro. Yeah, capitalism at its worst, and it's always going to get worse than this. Like, it's going to get worse than this. That's the thing that I'm very concerned about. That it's going to get worse, and we are going to be faced up to this question of, is this the type of society we want to live in? Do we genuinely want to live in a society where homeless people who are like finding themselves in parks are getting brutalized by police so that we can get film crews in there? Like, for fuck's sake. Like, it's super embarrassing. Oh, yeah, here we go. Biden's now bombing poorest people on Earth. This is coming from Jimmy Dore.
So guess what's happening? The U.S. military carries out first airstrike in Somalia under Biden. Isn't that nice that a demented guy gets to decide who to kill? Isn't that awesome? Isn't that great? Joe Biden is in his 70s. The 70s, that's the amount of...
Well, I think you're right, DM. Capitalism will collapse. It is only a matter of time. But the question is whether or not we're going to let it take everything else with it, right? That's the big question. Now, we all know that capitalism is going to collapse. Well, we don't all know, but like most of us are aware of this. So the question is, should we let everyone go with it or not? Because it's not going to go out quietly. Like, it will turn to fascism. That's how capitalism devolves. We've seen that happen. We've seen it happen before. It's even theoretically salient, right? That liberals liberals like Biden will ultimately open the door to fascists, and will ultimately say, like, okay, we tried liberalism, we tried that, and it looks like that's not working. So I guess we're just going to let the fascists have control now. Right? And the fascists will take over. Right? And so the question is, should we let the capitalists take everything with them? I say no. Does the film crew and company know what's happening? Maybe they should be told, and that film of cops moving homeless for them should be shared. I don't think they care, Ruth. Like, the television and film industry is fairly ruthless. Like, they have a very kind of ruthless way of looking at it. Breaking, Governor Rod DeSantis calls to immediately put Ben & Jerry's and Unilever on the continued examination of companies that boycott Israel list to stop investment in these companies. So this is, Ben & Jerry's is no longer selling its ice cream in Israel, and the Republicans in Israel are having a little crybaby hissy fit about it. Right? I can't get my ice cream. That's terrorism. Like, they're literally whining about it. They're literally whining like little children about it. It's unbelievable. Oh, found dog. Found July 3rd near Jane and Shepherd. Got a little puppy. Lost puppy. Yeah, Canada was basically built on white supremacy. Why calls to rename streets, take down statues are finally being heard? Because people are doing shit. That's why they're finally being heard. Because people are doing shit. Right? Like, this all flows into what I've been saying all along, right? Voting doesn't get it done. Letter writing doesn't get it done, right? Like, mobilizing people to, like, go to city, like, to go to a letter writing campaign and to have conversations with politicians doesn't get it done. Knocking over statues, that's getting it done. Going and doing shit, causing problems, standing in the way, right? That's getting shit done, right? The taking to the streets is getting it done. The more I think about this John Tory situation and him clearing out the parks, the more I think that he's probably not even going to run for mayor. I think he's probably just going to retire. right? Like, how old is John Tory? John Tory. He's got to be getting there. Right? John Tory. Let's get to his... Come on, John Tory. You have a Wikipedia for sure. John Tory, Wikipedia. How old are you? Assumed office? Nah, come on, Wikipedia. He's 67. He's 67. He's not even going to run. Like, he's not even going to run, right? Like, he's for sure. So he's just looking at this being like, yeah, fine, do it. Who gives a shit? Right? But this is his legacy. Clearing out these encampments are for sure his legacy. Yeah, people crying about not getting their ice cream is beyond childish. Mental health care is health care. Absolutely, Miranda. I'm completely with you on that. Which is why I gotta take care of my own, and everybody, we gotta take care of our own mental health. I feel like that's what this channel is. It's just all of us taking care of our mental health by finding solidarity, right? I feel like the isolation is the worst. That the isolation is the worst. I know that the worst periods of time that I had dealing with this fucking absurd nightmare world we live in is when I felt I was in isolation. When I felt like I was just speaking and no one was even listening. During the Obama years, I think the Obama years were the worst. The Trump years, actually, things got a lot better because people were actually looking at me and being like, hey, John, you know that stuff that you've been saying this whole time? Can you maybe tell me about that now? Instead of like rolling their eyes and being like, oh no, John, Obama's got it all in hand. Meanwhile, Obama is like... goes ahead and starts bombing Syria, right? Yemen, Oman, right? Like starts Libya. Libya happened under Obama, right? Libya is one of the largest tragedies of the century, and it happened under Obama. Hillary Clinton was the head of state, the head of the State Department, or Secretary of State. I did it. She was the Secretary of State, destroyed Libya under Obama, right? We're all supposed to just fucking ignore that? Why? I don't get it. Hope and change, that's why. Hope and change. The term basic economics is used to cover up the most obscene, inefficient cruelties imaginable. Why do 9 million people starve to death each year globally despite a global food surplus? Why don't we simply take our collective resources and use them towards a collective good? Because of basic economics. My God, if you'll believe that, you'll believe anything. Right? This is a statement that's completely affirms everything I say, which is that for the last 40, 50 years, right, neoliberal economics has been what's been considered basic economics. But when you actually look at it and you actually learn something about it, you really realize that it's not an economic system. It's a religious ideology painted to look like an economic system. And you start reading like Thomas Piketty, you start reading Keynes, you start reading Adam Smith, you start reading Karl Marx, right? You realize pretty fucking quickly that the neoliberal economists are just priests. They're not economists. They're just and they're largely illiterate, right? They're largely illiterate. Like they didn't read Marx. They completely distort Adam Smith. Like their usage of the invisible hand of the market, right? They say the invisible hand of the market, right? And they say this as if it's like, oh, the invisible hand of the market, and we're supposed to have that. But any time Adam Smith actually used the phrase the invisible hand of the market, it was very negative. He was very much like, yeah, it'll be like an invisible hand fixes the market to hurt people, right? And he was very explicit about that. And so it's a complete distortion of Smith, and they don't read Keynes. They don't know anything about him. I always mispronounce his name. It's Keynes. I can never fucking pronounce his name properly. I'm the greatest commentator of all mispronouncing important individuals' names. Keynesian, so it's Keynes. Anyway, so they don't read this shit. So they're just treating free counseling. Really? When can I come? Can I come for free counseling? Really? Is that true? The only reason I don't go do counseling and stuff is because I'm fucking poor. My internet is breaking up. Oh my God. Well, apologize to it. Don't break up with your internet. Oh my God. Watching the propaganda-fueled anti-China hysteria continue to spread is like watching a zombie outbreak. Shit, yeah, that is actually right on the fucking money. That is right on the goddamn money. I'm retweeting the shit out of that. I love Caitlin Johnstone, man. Like, her shit is super on point. Like, she is super on point. Tale of Two Protests. How Western media picks and chooses your enemies. Yeah. This recent Cuban, the Cuban stuff really, really illustrated this. Like, the mainstream media was using pictures from pro-Cuban protests, which were protests against, the imperial protests, and they were using pictures from the pro-Cuban protests as if they were the anti-communist protests. And they're trying to convince people that, like, oh, the communists are awesome and all things. Amanda Panda. Look at that. Oh, how's that for a name? Amanda Panda. I feel like I've said hello to you before. I'm having a glimmering of a memory that I've said hi. If not, hello. I'm glad you're here. Amanda Panda. I love that name. Amanda Panda. If my last name was Panda, I would definitely name my daughter Amanda. Absolutely. Yeah. Found dog. We got the dog. Look at this little guy. Got a little dog. Oh, he's such a little cutie pie. What a little cutie pie. Love him. Love him. Biden is a worse president than Obama and Trump. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, look. Critics decry double standard in former liberal candidate's departure. Yeah, like, it's just that the liberals are prudes. Literally like, oh, you did porn? No. And it wasn't even porn. It was just like, oh, you took some nude shots? No, we can't take that. No. We're little babies. We're scared of sex. Oh, yeah, sorry, Miranda. They won't let links come through. I think that's just a choice that YouTube has done. They don't want bullshit spreading around. If you just put spaces between everything, then it won't recognize it, and so you can put it up. Yes, but blackface is acceptable, exactly. Heroic little terrier saves her owner from a aggressive coyote. Oh, wow. That's sweet. This guy, I really like this guy. I'm super jealous of this guy because he's got more subscribers than I do. And we're both trying to do the same thing at the same time. And I feel like I should join forces with this guy. Yeah, he's got like 2,034 subscribers. I don't know how he's doing it. I don't know how he's doing it. Fucking jerk. How dare you be more popular than me? You got it, bud. We're in the last sort of 10 minutes of this stream, so let's have some fun. Heroic little terrier saves her owner from aggressive coyote. Little guy. Footage pulled. Oh, come on. Wow. Oh. Wow, that is a brave. Holy cow. That is a brave little fucking Yorkie right there, dude. That's why we love dogs, man. They're just like, my owner is in crisis. And look, like you can see, like the coyote actually gets a hold of him. Like really gets a hold of him, gives him a shake. Right here. He's got him. He shakes him. Right? Like, and yet it still keeps going. It still keeps going. Here, yeah, Barnabas. Yeah, for sure. Check this shit out. Look right here. So here comes the coyote, and she's like, oh, fuck, she's running. The Yorkie gets in the way. It's all behind this pillar, unfortunately. The Yorkie's barking his head off, doing his stuff. Right? Hey, no, fuck off. Trying to cause problems. Won't let the coyote fucking get it. Coyote gets the Yorkie, right here, gives him a shake. And the Yorkie's just like, no, I'm not backing down. Go fuck yourself. You loser, coyote. Coyote doesn't know what to do about it. He's just like, and then he's looking around for the little girl. She's like, that little girl's gone. That little girl's gone. All right, I'm gonna bounce. Coyotes, man. Coyotes. Yeesh. I worry about that kind of thing because I know there's coyotes in this graveyard that I walk in, and when I bring my dog in there, I worry and I've seen coyotes around, so I do worry about that kind of thing. But I think I'm big enough. Anytime I see a coyote, I see the coyote look at me, and I look at the coyote, and I can see the coyote be like, that, I'm not gonna fuck with that guy. I'm not a big guy, but like I'm pretty. I've got a stature, and I can definitely tell that the coyote's just like, yeah, I'm not gonna fuck with that guy. Yeah, man. Poor little girl. Poor little Yorkie. Poor little everybody. Holy cow. But looks like the Yorkie survived it. Got some surgery, right? Of course. Had some bites, probably. Oh. Yeah. Oh, man. Oh. Well, what a good little dog. Oh. Yes. Oh, man. Nature, man. Nature don't fuck around. How dare you, Barnabas, make me feel? Who did this to me? DM? How dare you? How dare you hit me in my feels like this? How dare you? Barry Weissletter. He is a part of Socialist Action. He's the secretary, the federal secretary of Socialist Action. Glad to see. Look at this. Let's see.
Comrades and friends, my name is Barry Weissletter, and I'm speaking for Socialist Action League for Elections.
This is the organization that I'm part of.
Socialist, and we are here in solidarity with revolutionary Cuba. We are here to demand that the U.S. lift the trade embargo immediately, and that Ottawa demand the same. You know, in Havana, there's a very large and famous billboard, and it says, and I quote, "Around the world, millions of children sleep on the street, but none of them is Cuban." Why is that? Because in Cuba, decent housing is a right. In Cuba, quality education is a right. In Cuba, the highest standard of health care is a right. Public child care, good nutrition, transportation, all of these things are a right of every Cuban. Racism is illegal. For generations, Cuba has been a beacon to all oppressed nations around the world. The main obstacle that it faces is a vicious trade embargo imposed by the Yankee imperialists, represented by that building across the road. And they've done this for 60 years and more. Why? Because an economic war. Why does America, the giant, wage an economic war against tiny Cuba? Why a punishing embargo that has cost Cuba $754 billion since 1961? An embargo that Trump tightened and that Biden continues, showing that there's very little difference at all between the Democrats and the Republicans. Why has Washington defied the nearly unanimous call by the United Nations to lift the embargo. 25 years in a row, they've demanded that the embargo be lifted, especially now in the midst of a global pandemic. The answer is clear, and it shows the weakness of the empire. The example of revolutionary Cuba is a moral threat to capitalism and imperialism. Cuba's internationalism, its egalitarianism, its very sovereignty poses a moral and political danger to the system that is choking humanity and nature. The Cuban revolutionaries, including Fidel Castro, Vilma Espin, and Che Guevara, led millions of workers and farmers to power. They expropriated the capitalists right down to the nails in their shoes, as Che said. They sent teachers across Latin America and the Caribbean. They sent aid and engineers to the earthquake victims in Pakistan. They defeated the armies of apartheid in Angola. And they asked for nothing in return except solidarity. The Cuban workers' state to this day is not marked by massive privilege or violence or corruption that characterized the Stalinist regimes of the Soviet Union, Eastern Europe, and China. Is Cuba a dictatorship? It's a dictatorship of the proletariat. Cuba is an economic democracy, and we defend it as one of humanity's greatest achievements. Hands off Cuba! Lift the blockade now! Hands off Cuba! Lift the blockade now! Hands off Cuba! Lift the blockade now! Thank you very much.
Yeah, fuck this shit. Like, lift the blockade, dude. Like, it's getting, it's embarrassing at this point. Like, it's even beyond like more morality, right? Like, it's just kind of embarrassing. Like, what? Like, I think the seminal statement that you can say about Cuba is, oh, if communism fails, which this is what they say, right? Communism fails. Well, then what's with this embargo, right? Just let it fail. And DM, I was just messing with you. I was just messing with you. That was a beautiful story. It was a beautiful story. Like, and this is what I say to anybody who wants to, like, pretend as though what's happening in Cuba, you know, that, oh, communism fails. Oh, okay. Then what's with the embargo? Like, if communism fails, then let it. Let's have a conversation about the complete and utter lack of dental care in Canada sometime. Yeah. Come on in a bit earlier and start talking about it. I'll start searching stuff up. But yeah, it's ridiculous. Like, as if dental care is not. I've seen some really teeth X-ray. Like, you're telling me that teeth are not part of healthcare? Like, you're telling me that teeth are not part of healthcare? Like, look, but you can see the nerves going up into the, like, you can see this shit, right? Look, you're telling me it's not part of healthcare? Oh yeah, DM, come on in. What a good time this one was. I'm so looking forward to when my voice comes back and when I'm ready to participate again, because it's just like, I'm just fucking getting toast, man, getting toast. Companies are embracing empathy to keep employees happy. It's not that easy. But I thought $7 an hour was empathy. Okay, guys. I'm going to close this one down a couple of minutes early. I hope you're all doing really well out there. I'm so glad that you came on in. I'm so glad that we had this time together. Always remember, right? You are a divine being standing in divine energy. These billionaires are spending billions of dollars to delude you and to gaslight you into thinking something else. Don't let them. They're doing that instead of helping people find homes. They're doing that instead of feeding people, right? It's a fucking embarrassment. You're making good decisions for yourself and for the people around you. You're handling things very well. Good luck. We're gonna need it.